It's a beautiful day today and the perfect day for some more entitled people. I'm sure you guys know the drill by now. This is a super long compilation, but not only is it a long compilation, I'm going to also be reading some brand new stories at the beginning. So yeah guys, I hope you're ready for this. Enjoy guys. I'm handicapped and my neighbor wanted me to move. One of my neighbors knocked on my door and asked me if I'd move out of the parking lot so that their friend could park closer to our apartment building. The neighbor tells me that her friend is pregnant and needs a closer spot. We have a shared parking lot between the two buildings and each unit gets an unassigned space. I was sitting there in my wheelchair, physically out of breath because the neighbor was pounding on my door. I thought something was really wrong, so I hurried. I used up every last ounce of energy I had in my body. I have a condition that drains me of energy. I sat there completely dumbfounded by this request, blinking twice. I'm sorry, what? I pay for a parking spot because I live here. Also, why would you expect someone in a wheelchair to move? I'd have to move my car and really physically exert myself getting up the giant hill that I live on. I was annoyed that interrupted my working from home for such a request. I thought for a moment and I said, sure, your friend can have my spot. That'll be $50 for the inconvenience of having to wheel myself up the hill and for what I paid for it with my rent. Yeah, they weren't too happy with my request, but it's the truth. I get one unassigned parking space that's included in my rent. You want to use it, you can pay for it too. Yeah, definitely, the bloody audacity. So the neighbor wanted OP here to move their car for their friend, but it sounds like the neighbor could have moved their own car for their friend. I don't understand why they're trying to get OP to move their car. People are so funny in such an infuriating sort of way. The next one says, teenagers tried to steal my seats at a concert. My sister and I went to a concert earlier this year. We bought numbered tickets to choose where to sit because it's one of our favorite artists. The concert was scheduled for 8, but there's always an opening act, so we arrived around 8:30. The opening act's concert was ending, but we found a group of teenagers settled in our seats. I approached them and I politely asked them to move. Their response was that since we were late, we had lost our seats and they weren't going to move. My sister went to find security while I insisted that no matter how late we were, I paid for those seats and I was going to use them. As I stood there blocking the passage and in front of others, people around started getting annoyed. A couple of people a few rows ahead told the kids they should make room. After a bit of discussion and to avoid being pointed by everyone around us, they finally vacated the seats. My sister arrived with security just as the kids were moving, but then another couple arrived and had the same issue as us, so the rest of the group had to move too. They did so grudgingly and muttering, but ultimately they had to respect the assigned seats. During the concert, my sister and I sang our hearts out to every song and we enjoyed the show. Meanwhile, the kids who were in our seats seemed to have come along just to accompany their girlfriends and barely knew a couple of songs. Wow, so they weren't trying to say that the seats weren't yours. They knew that you paid for the seats, but they felt like because you were late, they could have the seats. Wow, that's so frustrating. And like the audacity to say that as well. Like, yeah, okay, I realize that you paid for these seats and they're definitely your seats, but you were a bit late, so that means that we should get them. No, actually it doesn't, so please leave. The next one says, my friend won't pay me back for drinks because she has bills to pay. So I was recently with a good friend of mine and one of her friends from college for the weekend. We went out to bars the first night and each took turns buying rounds for everybody, but the next morning we spent forever trying to figure out who owed what to who, so I announced that we should handle our own drinks the following night, which everyone agreed with. That went mostly to plan except for one place towards the end of the night where we all ordered drinks and then they drunkenly went to the bathroom right after ordering. When the bartender came up to me with the drinks and asked me for the payment, that was when I noticed they were gone. Oh, they so did that on purpose. So I just put my card down for all the drinks, not thinking it would be a big deal. Well, I spent the next few days reminding them over and over again that they each owed me $15 for these drinks, to which I was met with, yeah, okay, but no actual money was sent. For context, these girls are freshly graduated from college, paid for by their parents and have been paying rent for the first time in their lives for only a couple of months, while I've handled my own rent and bills for 5 years, but currently am living nomadically in my van. So after about a week of hounding them for this money, they finally tell me that they won't be paying me back because they're broke and have to save up to pay for bills at the end of the month. I try to remind them all that adults have bills to pay, and that's not an excuse to not pay me back, to which they remind me that I don't have to pay rent unlike them. Right, because I live in a van, they need that $30 way more than me, I guess. Yeah, and they can get out of here with that. They shouldn't have had any drinks. OP said in the comments that they're not expecting the money back, and they're also not expecting to ever talk to them again. And yeah, I feel like that's definitely the right move. Like, yeah, absolutely no respect. And if they're gonna do this now, they're gonna do it again. Oh, so annoying. Entitled family causes scene at graduation. My sister-in-law graduated medical school over the weekend. At the ceremony, a family sat behind us. They had a 4-year-old girl who kept running back and forth, kicking our seats, playing with our coats and hair and whining and coughing, etc. After about 40 minutes of this, my father-in-law started throwing the parents dirty looks and finally asked the girl and her mum to stop kicking his chair. That was all he asked. The woman, Karen, grabbed her child and said, "Fine, this is my husband's graduation, but I guess I'll just have to miss it. Thanks a lot." Wow. Oh, it's already so frustrating. And then she took her kid and left. The grandma, Karen Sr., stayed and was so pissed. She said, "Why don't you just deal with it? She's not feeling well." Our group ignored her. After the ceremony, the graduate husband came and found father-in-law and expressed his dissatisfaction at him making his wife leave. When again, no one asked her to leave. It ended up being a comically dramatic situation with Karen Sr. trying to shame us for not putting up with the kid. I very calmly asked these people, "Why don't you just parent your child?" They had no answer and they stomped away. As a former teacher and someone who loves kids, I get that kids will be kids, but parents are responsible for teaching their kids how to act in public. It's not okay for a child to be all up in other people's personal space. Yeah, and the reaction that the mum had is wild. Like, "Oh, fine, we'll just leave then." Or you could say something to your daughter, you know, like maybe tell them to sit down and be quiet or something. But no, they've got to make a scene for no reason. That's all the new Entitled People stories, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoyed the compilation. I'll see you tomorrow, legends. Woman tries to steal our table at restaurant while we're eating. My husband, myself, and our almost 2-year-old were eating breakfast at a very small mum and pop diner that had 8 tables and 2 waitresses. My husband and I were done eating and had paid the bill. My little toddler was, of course, taking her sweet time and still eating, and we were contentedly sipping our coffees. A rush of people started coming into the door, and their wait times gradually increasing with each new table added to the wait list. People waited outside on this day, and the waitresses offered them cups of coffee while they waited. A woman entered and said, "I'll sit here," and gestured to our table. The waitress said, "There are other people ahead of you." The woman argued back, "What people? Where are they?" And the waitress said, "They might be walking outside. Can I offer you a cup of coffee to take outside?" And the entitled woman responded, "You can put the cup of coffee on this table." Again, gesturing to our table that we're still occupying. This continued on before finally the woman agreed to be added to the wait list. It was so annoying. I felt bad for the busy waitress to have to deal with her on top of trying to do the rest of her job. Edit to add, my toddler is a person and you all were once people too. We occupied our table for a totality of less than an hour. At this point, we were less than 10 minutes away from being finished. Thinking back, this small diner had 6 tables and a small counter for seating, which is why the wait times became long quick. Some people are slower eaters, and for 10 minutes you shouldn't be punished for that. Wow, that's so rude. It's one thing to do this if you're obviously about to leave, but to do it when you're just sitting there showing no signs of leaving? Like, what? Yeah, like this comment says, some people just don't have any common decency. Yeah, that's so ridiculous. Entitled sister-in-law wants custody of my baby. Background, me 36 female, sister-in-law 40 female. I've been married to a brother for over 10 years and there's always been some jealousy and resentment from her. She's always felt like I had the life that she wanted, not necessarily with her brother, but the marriage and family and job stability, etc. I have 3 kids, 10 female, 8 male, 3 months female. She got married last year and they decided to start trying for a baby, but she was unfortunately told that she can't have children naturally. She was understandably devastated and the family comforted her as best as we could. We recently had a family dinner and in the middle of it she says, "I think it's really unfair that you got to have 3 kids and I can't have any. Your baby is my last chance to raise a child, so I think you should give her to me during the week so I can create a motherly bond with her and you can have her on the weekends." How does somebody even say something like this? Before I could even respond, the entire table erupted with everyone talking at once, so I took my older kids upstairs. When I got back to the dining room, her husband was asking what the hell is wrong with her and why she would even think to ask that. She was trying to justify herself when I asked them to leave. I also said that she's no longer welcome at my house or around my children until she gets help. She started screaming that I don't deserve my life or my children and that I stole her baby from her. Oh my god. Her husband and mother-in-law kept apologizing and dragged her out of the house still crying and screaming. Now my kids want to know why their aunt wants to take the baby. Edit. I've been reading the comments, but it's too many to reply to, so here's a few points. 1. We have a security system and cameras already installed and no one has keys to the house. 2. I will not be able to get a restraining order as this one incident isn't enough to justify it. 3. My husband and I spoke to the older kids about it the same night and we'll be having another talk with them to reinforce that sister-in-law is not a safe person anymore. 4. Our country does not have the right to bear arms and I also have no interest in getting a gun. 5. I'll be informing the school and daycare of the issue and giving them her photo. For those questioning the validity of the post, I completely understand. If I'd heard about this last week, I wouldn't believe it either, but it's unfortunately the situation I'm currently dealing with. Yeah, wow, that's terrifying. The top comment says, Jesus, stay safe. At least the rest of the family recognizes her craziness. Yeah, that's a super good point. At least everybody else in the family is fully aware of this. Hopefully things get better, because that sounds really bad. You didn't steal their baby, and you shouldn't have to feel bad because you have a good life and it's making them feel bad. A kid just found an autographed baseball. I took my 12-year-old daughter to a minor league baseball game. Before the game, she met several players and got their autographs on a ball. They were signing for everyone, so numerous kids got the same. Later in the game, we got up to get food, and I told my daughter the ball would be safe tucked inside our stuff left under the seat. No one else was sitting near us, and I've left stuff like that before many times. A couple of innings after we returned, my daughter noticed her ball was missing. I looked around and I saw a kid 2 rows behind us holding 2 autographed balls. One of them had red signatures on it, and we were the only ones I saw with a red marker. I got up and I made my way back to him, and I said, "Excuse me?" And the dad immediately said, "Oh, he found this," and the kid handed it back to me. I hadn't even asked for the ball back, so they made it obvious they knew what they'd done. Mind you, the kid already had his own signed ball. Nice job by the dad raising a thief. Oh, 100%, but also it might have been the dad's idea. Either way, that's so bad and not a good thing to teach your kid. Middle-aged Karen parked in the mother parking spot and confronted me about how I'm not entitled to it. Hey there, this happened yesterday at my local Loblaws. Most grocery stores here in Canada have a few expectant mothers parking spaces that are intended for pregnant women or parents with babies to use. They're generally closer to the door, usually beside the handicapped spaces or cart carol. I'm currently 7 months pregnant, and I was following a Lexus into the parking lot, and I plan to use one of these spaces. The Lexus ahead of me took this space. I didn't think much of it, and I parked about 4 to 5 spaces down from it. As I'm walking into the store, the woman in the Lexus mid-60s saw that I was visibly pregnant and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize," and laughed at me. I'm hormonal, and it probably wasn't necessary, but I responded with, "You're obviously not that sorry since you parked in a spot that you shouldn't have." She proceeded to get about a foot from me and scream at me, "F you, you're not entitled to this spot." I was caught off guard and I started crying. Not proud of this, but the hormones are intense sometimes. Thankfully, bystanders don't like it when people yell and physically intimidate a pregnant lady, and about 5 people came over to rip her a new one, telling her that she's way out of line and I'm the only person they see who's entitled to this space. One gentleman, my hero actually, called her a Karen, and she got back into her car and left. I just don't understand why she felt the need to confront me. Did she think apologizing for her intentionally crappy behavior would make her look less like a Karen? Like, I wasn't going to say anything, I just assumed she needed it because she had a baby or whatever, but she didn't. So yeah, that's my crazy Karen story. Mild compared to most here, but it was honestly scary. Yeah, I bet, and the bloody audacity. It's awesome that those people had you back though. Neighbor says I was trying to cheat him out of my TV. I'm having a house built, but I bought a TV during Amazon's Prime days. I had it sent to my grandparents' house to be stored until the house is done. The package never arrived, and after a couple of days, the picture from the delivery was on the FedEx side. I sent it to my grandfather, who recognized it was his neighbor. He calls the neighbor, who claims that he ordered the exact same TV and didn't realize he opened mine. I didn't ask him to contact the neighbor. The neighbor says his is coming in the following week and will give me his, as it's the same exact TV. A few hours later, he says, "I called Amazon, who said for me to keep this TV and for you to call them so they can replace it." I tell them that my refund and replacement has already been denied multiple times and that I was told to contact local authorities or law enforcement, but I would call again. The next morning, I call Amazon, who tells me that my claim was denied again and that I should still try to get my TV back since I know where it is. I called the neighbor, who is now saying that he has to send my TV back when he gets his in. I tell him not to, that I want my TV even if it's open. He's an older dude, so I was using yes sir and no sir. I was trying to be polite as he has my expensive TV. He hangs up and sends me a long text about how he has my TV and won't be giving it back. And I just say, to verify, you're refusing to give me my TV. He calls me back and says to stop harassing him. So I drive over to my grandfather's house, he's out of town, and I call the cops. After some back and forth phone calls with the cops calling me and the neighbor, they come out. 4 cops showed up because the dude said I'm committing fraud and cheating him out of a TV. After I showed the cops the text where he says he has my TV, pictures of the box that he sent me with my name on it, and when my refund was denied, they went to talk to him. He changed his story for the 5th time to say that I already got a refund and I'm trying to fraud Amazon. End of the day, I got my TV back and the neighbor calls my grandfather. Grandfather calls me saying that I discredited him. He meant defamation. He says that I called the cops on his neighbor and cheated him out of a TV. The neighbor saying that he won't get his package now because he was supposed to keep mine. This old dude was so entitled, he thought he had a right to my TV. I don't even think he ordered one in the first place now. Edit, for those of you curious, the cops were only able to get it back because of our state laws. In most states, they're required to give the package back if the person it was addressed to contacts them. The "you can keep misdelivered packages" only applies if it was addressed to you in the first place. Yeah, like the top comment says, no way that guy ordered the same TV. He was just trying to give you different excuses until you gave up. Yeah, that really is what it sounds like. Evil stepmother wants my baby. Okay, some background. I'm female, 29, English, and I live in Italy with my fiance, male, 37, Marco, Italian, and our daughter, 5 months old, Willow. I moved to Italy after graduating medical school, where I met Marco, and I'm now a resident in one of the hospitals. My father's a crap dad, left my mum and me, and has been very inconsistent. He married Tammy when I was young, and she's never liked me, and she was also never able to have kids. So when I gave birth, my mum's side of the family came over to visit and meet Willow and look after both of us. Nothing from my dad or Tammy. So 2 weeks ago, they turned up unannounced claiming to be in the area on holiday and wanted to meet Willow. She was getting a bit fussy and she combination fed, but as I was home, I grabbed a cover and I let her latch onto me. Tammy says the breastfeeding will have to stop soon. I'm confused and I ask her why, and she said it couldn't be kept up when Willow is with them. Now I'm even more confused and I ask her what she's on about. She shows me pictures of a baby room and says that she would split custody of Willow and not to worry, and she has everything set up already. I just stare at her, but she carries on, claiming that the age gap between myself and Marco is unhealthy for a child to grow up with. Oh, get out of here. She said it was obvious I needed help and she was happy to, and that I was obviously more bothered about working than staying home with my baby, so I should just let her have Willow. What are you talking about? But obviously she wasn't able to breastfeed, so she would have to stop that now. I tell her she can't be serious and think I'm giving her my baby, and she tells me to calm down. She's not asking for full custody, but she could provide a much calmer and stabler home and that I could always visit. She said it's what she deserves. What's wrong with people? Marco pushed everyone out and made sure that Willow and I were alright. Since then, I've been really weirded out and I've been getting texts from her saying that I need to let Tammy prove herself as a good caregiver, and Tammy's been sending loads of photos of the nursery that she made. Just to add so people don't get confused, I'm in Italy but Tammy isn't. They'd flown over here. Yeah, I'm sure weirded out is an understatement. They're asking for your child. How can people like this be serious? I can't believe that. Entitled woman confused on how elevators work. A few days ago, I was at an office building and I went to use their elevator. I was going down. A woman was waiting already and the down elevator came. We both get in. She pressed a floor higher up. I pressed the floor going down. As I did, I told her, just so you know, this is going down. Well, I pressed the button first. Yeah, she yelled at me. I said nothing and I stood in the back. The elevator closed. Lo and behold, it went down like I told her it was doing. She cussed under her breath. As I was leaving, she said, "I hope you're happy." Like I made the elevator or something. People are weird. Wow, that's so funny. "I hope you're happy." Obviously has no idea how it works. Oh my god, how dare you. Great, you made the elevator go down. That's so funny. Crazy lady accuses me of kidnapping my stepson. Tries to kidnap him from me. So this happened about a week ago and I'm still fuming from this. I'm not sure if this belongs in this subreddit, but here goes. A little backstory. I'm a mixed ethnicity individual. I've been confused for many races over the course of my 29 years on this planet, but I'm literally Caucasian and African American. Usually it can be figured out, but the difference with me is my father is the Caucasian, so therefore my hair is straight. I'm originally from Texas and am usually confused for being Mexican, but now I live in Massachusetts and I've never had an issue with anyone concerning my race until this day. Also, I'm married to a Caucasian woman who had a child before we were married. His father is not in his life as much and I took the responsibility because I love this woman and I love this little boy as if he were my own. He's 4 now and I've been in his life since he was 1. Anyway, my wife needed a few things from the grocery store and she needed to run a few more errands, and usually she just goes and knocks things out herself because I'm sleeping. I work nights, but this particular day I happened to be awake and I offered to go for her. She works hard and does a lot, so I definitely felt it was necessary to do something for her so she could relax for the day. I took my son with me so she could rest up and take it easy, and it gave me time to spend with my son for some bonding. We completed all the errands which went smooth and then headed to the grocery store to finish up our day. My son, being a typical 4-year-old, was full of energy, running ahead of me, laughing and speaking to everyone he came across, which I generally don't mind as long as he doesn't hit anyone and stays within eye view. As I'm making my way down an aisle looking for canned corn, my son jogs to the end of it when an older lady is entering at the other end. My son, being the sweet social butterfly that he is, approached and said, excited, "Hi, me 4 and me Ryan." Bless his little heart. The lady looked looked down and says, "Well, hello there. You shouldn't be running around unattended. Let's go find your parents." I didn't think anything of her statement because I assumed she just hadn't seen me. "Ryan, come back here, bud, please." He excitedly runs back towards me and starts turning in circles because, you know, he's 4. I'm still searching the shelves as this lady walks past me and stops behind me. Again, I think nothing of it because it's a grocery store and you have to share the aisles. I turn my basket around and I start to walk towards the front cash registers when this lady literally blocks my path. I say, "Excuse me," and I try to walk around her and she moves her cart in front of me again. I honestly thought she was just getting confused and said, "Excuse me," once again, and I tried one more time to go around and she just blocks my path. The following convo ensues. "Sorry about that, but we'll get out of your way." "Oh, I don't think so. You're not going anywhere with that child." "What, you mean my son?" "That's not your child. He's white and you're Mexican." "You probably didn't even know his name until he said it to me." "Wow, sure, whatever, lady. Can you move?" My wife is at home anxiously waiting for us. "Stop your lies. You're not taking him anywhere, you pervert." Oh my god. This whole time my son is standing close to me and holding my leg because he was honestly getting scared. I was getting angry because I hadn't had much sleep and I have a short fuse anyway. As you can see, he's standing close to me because he trusts me and you're scaring him, so how about you buzz off? No, he's scared because of you. He just doesn't know how to express it yet. She looks at my son. "Come on now, sweetie, I'm here to rescue you. Come with me." Thankfully, my son was able to communicate to her that he wasn't going anywhere with her, but she was having none of it. She literally grabbed my son and began to run. It caught me off guard because I honestly could not fathom what was actually happening. My son starts screaming loudly because he was so scared, and this lady's like, "Don't worry, sweetie, he won't hurt you, I promise." Suddenly, I snap back into reality and I begin to chase after this crazy person. While running through the store, I yell for people to stop her and that she's kidnapping my son, and thankfully a worker stops her before she makes the exit. "Why are you stopping me? This Mexican here is trying to kidnap my grandson." My son is literally bawling his eyes out and extending his arms out calling for me. This lady was relentless and would not let go. Even after my son slapped her face multiple times, I laughed a little, not gonna lie. At this point, a manager shows up and asks me what's going on. This lady spoke before me. "This pervert is trying to kidnap my grandson and I was just trying to escape." "That's my son, you psycho. Now let him go." The manager didn't know what to believe. I don't blame him. He was caught in a weird situation. So I pulled out my phone and I showed him pictures of me and my son that dated a year back or so. This lady still would not give up and accused me of faking them. Like, how would you do that? I'll never know, but whatever. Sadly, there were 2 other ladies there taking the psycho's side and said I was attempting to kidnap my own son because there was no way that we were family because of our different skin tones. One even called the police, which I was actually happy about because I knew they'd be able to review the security cameras. Even still, I called my wife to see if she could come to the store to get this situation cleared up quicker. As soon as I told her what was going on, she zoomed to the store. She got there about the same time as the police. The crazy ladies were giving their statements to the cops when my wife walked in. As soon as she walked in, my son goes, "Mama, help." My wife is a true mama bear, and she immediately flew into a rage when she saw this lady holding my son. "Let him go now." "Sorry, sweetie. I was just trying to protect him from this pervert over here." "Yeah, we saw him trying to kidnap him, but this lady saved him." The cop looked at the lady and is confused. "I thought this was your grandson." "Wife, I have no idea who that lady is." She takes out her phone and shows the officer a picture of my mother-in-law. Lady, "Okay, I'm sorry. He's not my grandson, but I was only trying to protect him from this dirty pervert over here." Lady 2, "Yeah, I witnessed the whole thing. He snatched that child and tried to run away with him." Lady 3, "Yeah, I saw it too. He needs to be arrested. And you," pointing to my wife, "should be thankful that this lady was here to save your son because you obviously just let him loose wherever." Wife, "Who are you talking about again?" All 3 crazy ladies pointed at me. "Oh, what, you mean my husband?" Lady 1, "Husband?" My wife, "Yeah, who do you think called me and got me here so fast?" I presented my ID to the officer and the manager, and my wife did the same. We also each showed pictures of us on our phones to prove we were really a family. The cops nodded in approval and handed us our phones back and jotted down a few notes. The 3 ladies for some reason still kept trying to say this was all fake and that my wife was in on the kidnapping and said that we needed to be arrested. My wife lost it at this point and let off some colourful words that I won't repeat, but she definitely got her point across. Then the nail in the coffin came for the psycho trio. The officer turned to the manager and asked, "Officer, sir, do the cameras work here?" Manager, "Yeah, we have them inside and out." "Okay, great, let's go review it." The ladies' faces went pale, like ghostly pale. The officer reviewed the outside camera as I pulled into the parking lot and saw me take my son out of my car, and then as I went up and down the aisles, and most importantly, the instance where the woman snatched up my son and began to run. Upon his return, he asked, "Would you like to press charges?" Lady 1, "Yes, I would." Officer, "Why would I be asking you that that question? Shut your mouth and sit down. He turns to me and repeats the question. Me, absolutely. Lady 1 was charged with an attempted kidnapping, false imprisonment, providing a false police report, and child endangerment. The 2 others were also charged with providing a false police report as well. To make matters worse for lady number 1, my son bruises easily and she left some terrible spots on him from where she was grasping him, but he's fine. This added to a charge of child abuse to her rap sheet. I have court later this year, but I'm not sure when because of COVID. The officer will be following up with me in a few weeks. Sorry for the length. Oh my god, I don't even know what to say. Once again, how did these people even exist? That's so unbelievably awful. I can't believe people can be like this. Entitled Ken felt entitled to my engagement ring. So this happened a few months ago. I was doing my normal monthly grocery shopping at Walmart. I'm in the meat section getting what my family needs and will use for the month. I'm terminally ill, so my weight fluctuates a decent bit. My fingers swell and shrink depending on what kind of day I'm having. At this moment, my hands were as small as they'd ever get. While putting a roast in my cart, my ring slips off and it clangs its way to the bottom of the cart and onto the floor, and then it bounced a couple of feet. Cue the entitled Ken. This man looks me directly in the eye, picks it up and puts it in his pocket. I was shocked and I froze. I mumbled a quiet thanks and can I have my ring back? He makes no move to give my ring back until an employee makes it known that she's seen the whole fiasco happen and would be calling the cops if he didn't hand it over. He mumbled something akin to, I found it on the ground, it's mine. He immediately handed it to me despite his protests. Like, what in the legitimate hell made him decide that he could just take my ring? Yeah, what? And also, that could have been so much more annoying if the employee didn't see this. It's so lucky that they saw it happen. Yeah, but that's just messed up. Even if you have absolutely no money, you don't steal somebody's engagement ring. You don't steal anything for that matter. A couple took an Instagram-worthy hot chocolate by mistake. I, female, now 42, live in Copenhagen, but the rest of my family doesn't. So my sisters like to come to visit for a few days every now and then to hang out and enjoy some sightseeing and good food. This happened in December 2019, so before 2020, which means lots of people everywhere and no restrictions of any kind. My little sister, now 38, was here for a Christmas visit in December, and we were enjoying the lights and the sights of some lovely Christmassy delights. It was a cold day, and we decided that we'd visit a smallish cafe that makes a really tasty and very beautiful all things chocolate, and have some of their seasonal hot chocolate, which is kinda pricey, but well worth the price tag. It was a salted caramel and clementine hot chocolate, lavishly decorated by the way. You could get 2 or 3 kinds of pretty but regular hot chocolates too, but this was their Instagram hot chocolate, if you know what I mean. My sister finds a table and I get in line to order 2 of these chocolate wonders. There's a bit of a queue, but it moves along fairly quick. I get to the counter and the chocolate goddess at the counter asks me my very feminine name to call when my order's up and informs me that it'll be about 10 minutes. I go sit down and I wait for my sister at the other end of the cafe, but very much still within hearing distance. So just about 10 minutes later, the male half of a couple orders and goes sits down with his girlfriend. They were 2 tables away from the counter. At the same time, my name is called. Now I can't see their table as it's behind me, but my sister told me later that the girlfriend pointed at our chocolates immediately and the man more or less sprinted up to get them when the woman who made the hot heavenly drinks had her back turned. I walk up there and my drinks are of course gone. One of the hot chocolate goddesses comes over with the next order and calls a name. I ask where the order for my name is and she said that when she looked over her shoulder to check, she assumed I'd gotten them because they were gone. Another chocolate god interjected that he saw a man take my order and point to the table with the thieving couple who were busy taking lots of photos of their drinks. The goddess, okay, I don't know if I can keep calling them goddesses, okay? The goddess went over with me in tow and asked what they'd ordered. They'd ordered regular hot chocolates, but the girlfriend had wanted these when she saw them in all their glory just sitting on the counter with no one to claim them. For at least 5 minutes, they said. So she thought it didn't matter if they took them instead. Oh, how dare you? They were unclaimed for bloody 5 seconds, lady. The goddess explained that the drinks were not theirs and to wait for their order. No, they're ours now, the girlfriend claimed, and pulled the finder's keeper's card all while looking triumphantly at me. The goddess asked the guy which name he gave at the counter, and he claimed he gave the same as my name, hence the mix-up. So I asked him, what was the name called? Surprise, surprise, he couldn't answer. Now the girlfriend was getting upset and sat there saying, no, 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 over and over again, while the guy asked if I could not just order new ones. Oh my god, they're throwing a tantrum. They're a fully grown adult, aren't they? What Why are people like this? No, I'm gonna have your hot chocolate even though it's not mine. Straight up acting like an entitled child. The guy asked if I could not just order new ones since clearly they'd made a mistake and the drinks were already on their table. Why? So you can steal those too? Yeah, they stole them. They didn't put them on their table. The goddess asked if I wanted those specific 2 drinks or could she maybe make me some new ones. I asked if the couple would be allowed to keep the mouth-watering morsels of goodness if I wanted new ones, and she said yes. Well, then of course I wanted those specific drinks, and now girlfriend was visibly crying. Oh my god, what? The goddess took the drinks away and gave them to me. As we were walking away, I inspected the drinks and I told her she better pour these away and make new ones, because 1, they were now cold, and 2, there were tears in one of them. And though I enjoy salted caramel, this level of salt was a bit much. She grinned and took them away and made me new ones that were served at the table. My sister and I agreed that these were the best hot chocolates we've ever had. We enjoyed them loudly while the thieving couple stared daggers at us. The audacity though, like what do they expect? You can't steal somebody else's drinks and think that you're not in the wrong. Like how do you have the audacity to be upset about this, you know? Oh, so you're telling me I can't just take stuff that isn't mine? And it doesn't matter if I get upset about it and throw a tantrum even though I'm an adult? Oh no. It's like if somebody was never told no and they always got what they wanted and they just went out into public and thought they could do the same. The next one's called Lady on the Bus Scolds Me for Sitting because I'm young and healthy and demands that I give up my seat. I suffer from chronic illnesses and chronic back and hip pain. I rarely take the bus because it's less painful to drive myself or to have someone drive me for my back. I get on the bus and I find an open seat and I sit down. At the next stop, some entitled Karen gets on the bus and stands next to me with a displeased look on her face. Entitled Karen, excuse me, hello, do you need something? Entitled Karen, you know that there are older people on the bus who need to sit? People like me, I'm sorry, there are probably other seats in the back. I really need that seat. Entitled Karen, stop talking this nonsense. You're a healthy young girl who's clearly healthy. I need to sit. I might look healthy, but I'm not, and young people can be ill too. So please leave me alone. People start to look at us because she's huffing and puffing loudly. Entitled Karen, today's youth is so spoiled. You need to learn to respect your elders. And then she tried to sit on top of me. Stop it, lady. Get away from me. I don't want you to touch me. Entitled Karen, get off this seat and we'll both be happy. You don't need it. This lady, half of her fat ass on top of me, started to make herself comfortable on me. At this point, I was in a crap ton of pain and I was screaming at her to get away from me whilst holding back tears from the pain. The bus driver had to stop to have her removed. A girl from my class came and comforted me even though she barely knows me. Happy ending, I guess. But still, how do people just decide to sit on top of a person just to get what they want? Yeah, God, that's so awful. And yeah, just because somebody looks young and healthy doesn't mean they're not suffering from something. But yeah, either way, you shouldn't bloody sit on somebody. And I don't know, call me crazy, but I feel like that goes without saying. Guy doesn't buy a movie ticket, gets pissed when the movie doesn't play. Many years ago, I worked at a movie theater. I was working box office and a guy comes in with his kid and walks right past me to the concession stand, buys some snacks and then proceeds into a theater. At this theater, we turned off the screens if no one bought tickets for the movie. Dude comes back out after the movie was supposed to have started, complaining that it's not playing. A manager asks to see his ticket and when he doesn't produce it, refuses to turn the screen on. The dude stormed out of the theater with his kid, flipping us off on the way out, got in his car, drove up to the building and chucked his drink at it. So not only did he make a fool of himself, he wasted a $5 soda and all in front of his kid. Wow. You mean I can't just go and watch a movie? Like, how are they the ones that are getting upset? Do you know how this works, dude? Or do you just feel entitled to everything for free? The funniest part and the most frustrating part is when they're surprised. Like, oh, I can't believe I couldn't just do this. Of course you can't, dude. The next one's called Aunt shows up at my place with all of her stuff and tells me that she's going to be living with me for a while. And also, by the way, this was 10 months ago. So without getting too political, we recently had an election in the USA. My aunt supported one side while her husband and adult offspring supported the other side. The election didn't go the way my aunt wanted it to. Aunt proceeded to flip her crap, breaking things and yelling, and even going as far as to set her daughter's "I voted" sticker on fire. Oh my god, that sort of stuff rots people's brains, I swear. Her husband called the police. The police declined to arrest her for anything, but suggested she find a different place to stay for the night. This happened yesterday in New Jersey. Fast forward to 2 a.m. today. Here I am sleeping peacefully in my home with my family over 500 miles from all of this drama. My fence alarm goes off, waking me up. I don't know if it's a bear or a trespasser, so I get my pants on and grab my shotgun just to be safe. safe. Turns out my aunt cut the lock off my gate because she couldn't get in and I wasn't answering my phone. Why did she have bolt cutters in her car? So I safely stow my weapon and I ask her, what the hell? She starts crying and screaming. Mind you, this is 2 in the morning in a quite rural community about how the devil took her family and they threw her out. And she says that since she has nowhere else to go, I need to let her in so she can stay in my guest room for a while. I told her one of my guilties is using that room right now. The room's occupied. This person came from Texas all the way to West Virginia to hang out with me. I'm not going to toss them out with 30 seconds of notice because my aunt showed up. So she decides to call the police and tell them that I'm keeping her from entering her home. What? We're out in the woods, so the cops don't get here quick. It's 4:41 a.m. when they show up. I see them talking to her in the driveway. She shows them the bolt cutters and the ruined lock. A few minutes later, the officer knocks on my door. Your tenant claims that. I immediately cut him off and tell him that I do not have a tenant. I own and occupy this place. I offer to show him the deed. Well, this woman claims. I cut him off again. What's the address on her ID say? At this point, the cop is pissed at me, I can tell, so I try to de-escalate the situation. Look, man, she doesn't live here. She's never lived here. That's my aunt. She lives in New Jersey. Please check her ID. Cop calms down a bit and lets me know that he'll talk to her and then come back. 10 minutes later, the cop comes back to my door. 3 of them this time. Not just the one from earlier. One of them had stripes and a rocker on his arm, so I could tell he was important. He asked me if there's any way the aunt can stay here for the night because she's too drunk to drive, so we can't let her back on the road. This woman just drove from New Jersey to here drunk. Thank God she didn't kill anyone. I told him she can't stay here, but I'm sure there's a room in the local jail. The cop asked me if she can just sleep in her car in the driveway and leave in the morning. I told him absolutely not. When she wakes up in the morning, I'll just have to call them to come get her off my property, so that wouldn't solve anything. I asked them to remove her from my property. Long story short, her car got towed and she's in the drunk tank. So much for sleeping tonight. My kids need to be up for school soon. Yeah, like this comment says, the woman drove over 500 miles inebriated, trespassed on private property, destroyed private property, lied to police and still didn't get arrested. I'd be pressing charges for the trespassing and the property damage, and then reminded that it would have been cheaper to get a hotel room. Yeah, the fact that they didn't get in trouble for this pretty much. Wow, that's unbelievable. And scary too. You shouldn't have to worry about your aunt that's lost it, that may or may not break into your house. Yeah, that's ridiculous. My parents apologized. My sister did not, at least at first. A week ago, I made this throwaway account to ask am I the a-hole a question. I was found to be anything but the a-hole in it. I have too much to say to post in Am I the a-hole as an update, so a friend recommended I come here. My post on Am I the a-hole essentially opened a Pandora's box in the family. We've read this Am I the a-hole post before and I can play it right now. And if you guys want to skip the Am I the a-hole post, skip to this part of the video. Am I the a-hole for saying I'll be driving myself and paying for my own room on the upcoming family vacation so I won't have to be a babysitter? I, 23 male, was repeatedly stuck playing the part of helper and babysitter on all family outings. I had to move out of my parents' house because I kept being forced to help watch my 3 nephews. Last year we took a family vacation in summer to the coast. I rode along with my parents and they paid for my hotel room. Only I had to share that room with 3 rowdy boys because my sister and her husband wanted a room to themselves. I was promised time to do my own things on the vacation, but instead I ended up having to help with these kids. I complained to everyone about it and I was reminded that I was there for free. And then we pretty much just did only one thing that I wanted to do, which was tour an art gallery. I like doing this whenever I'm at the coast, but the kids find it boring. This year my parents have a beach trip planned for me and they assumed that I'd be riding along the same way as last year, but I refused. I said I'd be driving myself and paying for my own hotel to stay in so I can have my own room. My parents were shocked and they tried to remind me of the cost. I said it was no worry, I've got a good job and a decent running car. I can more than afford it. That's when the buts started. I stated the previously listed things as to why I'll be driving myself and paying for myself. I want to be able to enjoy this vacation as an adult and not be treated like a child like last year. My parents told my sister and she called to blow up at me that I'll be ruining the vacation if I'm off doing my own thing while she has to wrangle her 3 boys. Oh, no way! I ended up yelling at her that last year all she did was rope me into her mess. I didn't really get to do much of anything that I wanted to do, and I was treated like the bad guy for wanting to just go to a bloody art gallery. I'm a grown man, I deserve my own vacation too. Now my sister isn't speaking to me, and my parents are still trying to convince me just to ride with them to keep the peace, and I'm still refusing, but the pressure is getting to me. Am I the a-hole for not giving in? I know they'll have a pretty hard time when they won't have another person there to help. Yeah, but that's That's not your job. Edit, it's barely even been an hour since I posted, but my sister is apparently a Reddit lurker in the mornings, and she saw my post. Not only is she furious with me, but she's also upset that no one in the comments is siding with her. So to make it short, she went on a big rant about how it's so hard to be a parent to triplets, and the least I could do is help because I'm young and single, and she needs a break. I stood my ground on my decision, and now she's calling our parents to get them involved. I'm expecting a call from them any minute. Update, well, I'm off work now, so I can tell more of what went down. I guess you could say it's over. My sister got our parents involved, they looked at my post, and they were absolutely horrified by the continuous influx of commenters. Yes, they're very angry with me that I posted here, but I told them if they just listened to me to begin with, I would have never had to. I'm sick of the whole keep the peace mentality that sacrifices me to placate my sister. They in turn went off on my sister, and to make a long story short, the whole vacation has been cancelled. The hotel wasn't booked yet anyway, but my parents are arguing with my sister, and my sister is blaming me, and my nephews are crying because they aren't going to go to the beach. My sister called me at lunch and basically implied I have no life, which is why I have time to help. I recorded that and I told our parents, and that's currently what they're fighting about. Small update, I wasn't going to update again, but here's a little more. Parents said they won't ever push babysitting of my nephews on me again, and have agreed that what happened last year was unfair to me. Right now they're very angry with my sister for telling me that I should help her because she thinks I have no life. My sister is playing the victim, and my brother-in-law is basically saying nope to the whole mess and spending most of his time at work. Thank you to everyone who has commented. You made my day. Oh my god, what an adventure. And yeah, of course people in the comments aren't siding with the sister. It's obviously wrong of them to think they can do this. Like this comment says, that's a laugh. She's admitting that she's ruining your vacation so as not to ruin her own. They're her kids and her responsibility, not the a-hole. In fact, you're nicer than I would be. I'll just say no thanks, I've got other plans, and avoid the family vacation altogether. So back to the entitled people post. Basically, my parents and my older sister had become very comfortable with me helping with the childcare of my young triplet nephews. I didn't leave home till I was 22 because I was trying to save money while also going to college. A scholarship covered a lot, and living at home kept me from getting rising debt due to my working part-time as well. I'm very thankful for this. However, after college, everyone just seemed to act like I had endless time on my hands and convince me along on a family vacation. In this so-called vacation, I was forced to babysit my 3 at the time 6-year-old nephews. I even had to share a hotel room with them, and believe me, those kids did not listen to a damn thing I said until I called their mother twice, and I was treated like the bad guy for wanting to do other things during the trip. Like if it's something the family doesn't enjoy as a whole, then it doesn't happen, which was so hypocritical because I'm family and I wasn't included in that vote. And you can bet I aired this grievance with my parents after my last post, and they have acknowledged being in the wrong. After that awful vacation last year, I decided it was time to move out, and did so before the summer even ended, which surprised everyone as I gave them no warning. I'd landed a great job pretty much right after college thanks to an internship, and used moving as an excuse to drop my commute from 45 minutes to 15. My sister hated this because it meant no more free babysitting on weekends, but she still tried to make me do it. I caved sometimes, usually by being bribed with pizza, and this sort of thing became a new norm. But then last month, my parents announced plans for another family vacation to the same place along the coast, and they basically wanted to go the same way. I knew that if I rode with my parents and let them buy the hotel rooms, I'd be screwed over the same way as last time, so I casually stated I'd drive myself and pay for myself. And that's when the crap storm started. When my parents realized that they couldn't entrap me like before, they resorted to borderline begging, and my sister practically tried to get me to go with the flow through gaslighting. Newsflash, I didn't. After I didn't cave to my sister's demands, I made the Am I the A-hole post after days of harassment, and then my sister somehow spotted that post in less than an hour. What followed was Pandora's box. My sister called our parents and they called me when I still had a little time to talk in the morning. My parents were on the phone with me while also reading my post. I asked them if anything in the post was a lie. They sort of steered around it and called the post an exaggeration, but I pointed out numerous details that made it pretty much on the mark. Then I told them to check the comments. There were already far too many to read. I was repeatedly refreshing the page on my home PC and telling them how many comments there were. Then I told them I was sick of their mentality of keeping the peace by forcing me to placate my sister. Then I said I was out of time and we would have to resume this later. Well, my parents were positively horrified that hundreds if not thousands of people were commenting in a matter of hours, and later on I told them that the numbers had basically doubled and were still growing, which only added to their horror, so I guess they were forced to take a long look at their own actions. My sister tried to call me a biatch while I was at work, but my phone was on silent until my lunch break, so all she could do was leave messages and text messages, but she was persistent and managed to get through to me when I was eating my lunch. The gist of the conversation was that my post had taken her parents away from her side. Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? And now they were mad at her. In the ensuing argument between them, my parents cancelled the entire vacation. Yeah, they later acknowledged they just passed the blame out of embarrassment, and their fully accepted fault. They told me no excuses could excuse the fact that they made me their go-to free babysitter when I wasn't even living at home anymore. Then did try to backtrack a little by pointing out that they never charged me rent while I was in college, but I reminded them that kids don't ask to be born, and I was doing my hardest to make my own way. Then I pointed out that my father had the same kind of leg up from his parents. They let him live free of charge at home while he was in college. That pretty much ended any argument that my parents had left. When my sister managed to call me at lunch, I presented the facts to her, and she showed her true colours. She implied that I have no life and that my free time on weekends should be spent helping her because she's tired and unable to go out even without bringing her children with her, unless someone's watching them. She's a stay-at-home mum with a husband that makes a decent salary. They live in a pretty decent house that's owned, not rented. And to be frank, my nephews aren't really my responsibility. They forced them on me and expected it to stay that way. My sister angrily hung up on me, but I'd recorded the call and then played it to my parents later. They were furious, and they basically went to war with my sister. My sister dug her heels in and blamed me, and then doubled down on her belief that my life should circle around hers. I told her that was the most narcissistic and entitled thing she's ever said to me. It took days, but her husband finally stepped in and forced her to apologize to me. I'd never seen her coward like that by anyone, but she was on the verge of crying. It ended up being admitted that one of the reasons I was the go-to babysitter was because my sister didn't trust strangers. It was never about the money, or was it? Actually, my brother-in-law thought that my sister was paying me for time watching her kids after I moved out of my parents' house. She didn't even give me gas money, just gave me cash that was enough to order pizza for both myself and the kids, and pocketed the rest. My sister had been shortchanging me for months. He blew up at her when this came out during her half-assed apology, and she was forced to pay me what she owed me in cash entirely from her savings, which she looked very sore about. And then my brother-in-law apologized to me for his own inaction in letting my sister walk all over me, and promised they'd get a normal babysitter from now on. Yeah, it'll cause a bit of a drop in the bucket for them, but my sister will be getting date nights back. Then came the family meeting the other day's evening. We all gathered up at my parents' house and everything was laid bare. Apologies all around and whatnot. Then my parents reinstated the family vacation, and yeah, I do still plan to drive myself and pay for my own hotel stay. I'll even stay in a completely different hotel if my sister tries to revert me to childcare, and I have stated this. She promised me that it won't happen, and if I don't update again after the vacation in another month or so, then you'll all know that everything's fine. Wow, what an adventure! I'm so glad everything's sorted out now, cause yeah, that was so frustrating. Entitled ex-landlord demand that I leave behind the washer and dryer that I paid for. Originally, I posted this on Am I the A-hole, but someone said it might belong here. So yeah, here it is. So for the past 2 years, I, 25 male, lived in a small apartment building. The apartment didn't have a laundry room for the building when I moved in, but it did come with hookups for a washer and dryer in the apartment, so I bought them myself. Cause I work for a wildlife sanctuary and I get pretty dirty during my work. Just the other day, I had to chase down and wrestle one of our wild boars, Bacon. We didn't name him that, he came with that name. Who loves to escape his pen and thinks it's funny to play chasings. It got me completely dirty. I was covered in grass stains and mud, so I very much need them. My boyfriend and I just got engaged, and since my lease was up, I moved into his house with him. I finished moving everything out of my old apartment yesterday, and I thought nothing about taking my washer and dryer with me as I had bought them. My boyfriend had some, but they were old and kept breaking down and were costing too much to fix. Well, I woke up this morning to multiple missed calls from my old landlord. I left my phone number and new address in case any mail was delivered to my old place. I called him back and he asked me why the washer and dryer were gone. I explained that I took them with me. He started freaking out, saying that he had put the place as having a washer and dryer in the ad for the place. Apparently I've raised the rent due to them. He started demanding I bring them back because the new clients have set up to move and have already signed a lease and are not interested in the place without them. Even threatened to call the police if I don't take them back. I got angry and I told him I'd do no such thing, reminding him that they belong to me. I bought them, and I still had the receipts from when I bought them, as well as a text from him from when I moved in explaining that I was buying them myself. He again threatens to call the police. I told him to do it and see what happens, and then I hung up at that point. Personally, I don't think I'm in the wrong. I bought them and they weren't cheap, so I feel like I have the right to take them. My boyfriend is on my side, but today my co-worker said that they think I'm an a-hole for not telling the landlord that I was going to take them. In my opinion, that should have been obvious. I paid for them. Why would I leave them? Yeah, 1,000,000%. That doesn't even make any sense. Well, my landlord did call the police because they showed up today. Honestly, nothing really noteworthy even happened. I explained to them what was going on, and I showed them the receipt for the washer and dryer as well as the text from the landlord from when I told him I was buying them. The cops took my statement and left. My boyfriend's father is a lawyer and he's going to be contacting my landlord and sorting everything out. He advised me to not respond to the landlord anymore for the time being. Wow, that's unbelievable. You bought them. Why do they feel like they can even get upset about this? And also, the co-worker saying that you're an a-hole for this is completely wrong. Yeah, of course, if you bought this washer and dryer, you're going to take them with you when you leave. The next one is called Disney Entitled Parents. Currently, I'm at the happiest place on earth. Some of these rides, including some of the most popular ones, have single rider only lines. They're what they sound like. If you don't mind getting into a ride with people that you don't know, you can get in and out pretty fast. No extra lightning lane or Genie Plus needed. It's important to note that as you make your way through the single rider lane, there are multiple signs that say your party will be broken up, groups will not ride together. Well, I noticed a family just a few people ahead of me. They had 3 small kids with them, the oldest one being 7. I thought, let's see what happens here. You could already tell they were trying to game the system and avoid waiting in the regular line. Keep in mind, this lane was for the most popular ride, Radiator Races or whatever the hell it's called, in Cars Land. Even the single rider lane was over 30 minutes. The regular line was over 100 minutes. They get to the front, the attendant, whoops, sorry, cast member, takes the first kid and tells her to get in line 4. The dad yells, she can't go by herself, she's only 7. The cast member spins around and says, feel free to get into the regular line if you want to ride together. Otherwise, the little girl has to go in that line. Cue the parents freaking out. Little girl looks very hesitant, but she gets in. Off she goes. Mum and dad are freaking out. Dad is yelling at cast member. Mum is pacing and quietly freaking out. The rest of the family gets piecemealed out, and although the mum gets to ride in the same car as her 2 youngest, maybe 3 and 5, they're in separate rows. The dad stays behind to yell at the cast member again, who just keeps repeating single rider line only and continues to smoothly do his job. Dad stomps over to his seat and yells, this is messed up, and zoom, off he goes. You could tell the dad told the mum to get in that lane because it was faster, and my guess is he promised her that, oh, I'm sure they won't break us up. Arrogant jerk. I'm glad Disney didn't give in. I greatly enjoyed my ride. Oh my god, people can be so frustrating, but that employee did such a good job. Like, yeah, same here. I'm so happy that they didn't give in. Like, no, you can't just do this, okay? Follow the rules or get out of here. The next one is called Entitled Kid Tries Sending His Police Officer Dad After Me in a pro-revenge attempt, and his plan backfires. From the mid-90s through early 2000s, I spent my summers as a counsellor at a Boy Scout summer camp. I've worked in several different program areas, but this story happened when I was the director of the rifle range. Every week we would get a new group of campers, and when they came up to the range for orientation, I would go over all the safety rules, and I'd finish by telling the kids, you all get 1 warning on this range, and this is the warning. There are only 2 safe directions to point your rifle, up in the air or down range. It doesn't matter if your gun is loaded or unloaded. If you break this rule and deliberately point your rifle in any other direction, you will be kicked off this range and you will not be allowed to shoot here for the rest of the week. I would go over all of these rules again for the kids on the first day of merit badge classes to satisfy the safety rule requirement for the badge, and there were plenty of posters hanging around the range with all the safety rules on them. In other words, there were no excuses to break them. One day the scouts in my merit badge class were practicing shooting for the test they had to take at the end of the week. One scout, the entitled kid of the story, thought it would be funny to point his rifle at another scout and spout off some random action movie line. I ran up and I snatched the rifle right from his hands and I yelled, what the hell are you doing? The entitled scout responds, but the gun wasn't loaded. Me, recite the safety rules now. The entitled scout recited them all, including the part about pointing the gun in a not safe direction. I told him to hand over his shooting ticket. I tore it in half, and I said that he was done on my range for the rest of the week. Later that afternoon, the range was open for free shooting. Everything was going smoothly until I noticed the entitled scout walking up the trail towards the range with his father, an assistant scoutmaster who was built like an NFL linebacker. After the round of shooting ended, I called a ceasefire, and I told my assistant to keep an eye on the range while I handled the situation that was about to happen. As I approached the entitled scout and his father, he jumped up and down, pointed at me and yelled, that's him! He's the one who tore up my ticket and kicked me off the range. He looks at me and yells, you're gonna get it now, my dad's a cop and you're gonna be sorry for what you did. Before I could even get a word out, the cop dad gets in my face and started chewing my ass out drill sergeant style. Now this story happened so long ago that I don't really remember what the cop dad was shouting. I mostly remember the crap-eating grin that the entitled scout gave me as he watched his father tear me a new one. I just stood there quietly and patiently waiting for my turn to respond. Finally, the cop dad said something along the lines of, so what do you have to say for yourself? Me: yeah, I did tear up your son's shooting ticket and I kicked him off my range, but did your son mention why I did that? The cop dad's face went from angry to inquisitive. He blinked in rapid succession and he said, no, now that you mention it, he didn't tell me why. We turned our attention to the entitled scout. His smile faded and he shrunk in our presence as he realized that his plan had just backfired. I loved returning the same crap-eating grin that he gave me a few moments earlier. To the entitled scout's credit, he did tell the truth. He probably knew better than to lie to cop dad, and if looks could kill, the look on cop's dad's face would have killed his son several times over. After a moment of silence, he finally said in one of the most intimidating voices I've ever heard, go back to camp and wait for me at your tent and I'll deal with you soon. The entitled scout left to the tune of Dead Man Walking. Cop dad turned to me and apologized for getting angry and chewing my ass out before knowing all the facts, to which I accepted his apology. For the rest of the week, cop dad would come to the range every day during open shoot my rifles and would hang out and talk to me. Turned out he was actually a pretty cool guy. At the end of the week, he told me that when they get home, he will finish his son's rifle shooting merit badge and he'll make sure that his son never disrespects a firearm ever again. Wow, that's so frustrating but also so awesome at the same time. Awesome that the dad actually listened and realized that the kid was doing something wrong. Like, definitely shouldn't have just started yelling at them for no reason to start with, but at least they realized in the end. The next one is called Patient's Boyfriend Mad That He Has to Pick Up His Own Uber Eats. I work in a high-level hospital as an ICU nurse, and my managers are fantastic with staffing, meaning if you have a crashing heavy workload patient, they'll make the other patient that you have an easier one so that you can focus on the sick one. For a background, ICU nurses have 2 patients and we specialize in critical thinking, whereas the telefloor is the normal part of the hospital and holds less sick people who don't need as much attention. So these nurses have 6 patients and specialize in tasks and prioritization. So the beginning of my shift after report, I show my face and I say hi to my less sick patient, who is doing fantastic and just waiting for transport to take her to her tele bed. I'll say I'll be back around 9 PM in 2 hours, unless she needs me for something. So this means I have time to stabilize the sick patient next door. Unfortunately, the sick patient in room 1 starts coding, and the team is actively doing CPR. Crash cart in the hallway, 3 doctors are there, whole team to try to save this young dude. My team is working on meds, intubating, keeping compressions going, etc., while I'm talking with the doctors about what could have caused it, and I'm halfway outside the room for the healthier patient in room 2. She sees me through the window, presses the call light, and I ignore it because I have what should have been obviously very pressing matters. Her boyfriend ends up opening the door and standing in the doorway to just stare at me with his arms crossed. Just to give them the benefit of the doubt, she could have been concerned about her health. I say, is everything alright? And he goes, and tries to lead me inside. Of course, I only pay attention to him when the doctors go into room 1 to brainstorm on their own and assess where to go if they get the guy back. I look back through the window of room 1 and I realize I can give them 5 seconds to make sure nothing funky's going on. So she says, can you get my Uber Eats order? It just arrived downstairs. I swear I could have had a stroke from the high blood pressure at that moment. So I kindly say, I'm sorry, but I'm busy with another critical patient. Could you? I look to the boyfriend who's plopped in the recliner with his feet up watching Netflix, again on his phone, go and get it for her. And he goes, I'd rather not. Oh, good sir, you don't want to? You saw the mess next door through the window, me talking seriously with 3 doctors and the hot mess of people outside your room as we try to save a damn life. So I tell him I can't. The entire team is actively trying to save someone and none of us are available to leave. So either you go get it or I can have someone get saltines for you instead. He sighs, gets up slowly and then says, fine, I guess I'll go get it then. As I turn to head back into room number 1, dude literally has to turn his shoulders to slide through the massive group of people, still pissed that he has to take 1 elevator down when they get moved to another room around 10 PM. He's speaking loudly on the phone to someone saying things like the nurses are rude and they won't ever get food for their patients. The icing on the cake, she just gotten off an insulin drip for being in a diabetic coma. Never have I met a more entitled person who put having to walk and get their own food delivery above someone else's life. Oh my god, what's wrong with people? Imagine having the audacity to do something like this. Like, oh, I suppose I can go and get your Uber Eats order. All these lazy nurses around here saving lives aren't even helping me. So unbelievably annoying. The next one is called Thanks to Reddit, I stood up to an entitled Karen. Disclaimer, I live in Europe and English is not my native language, so my apologies for any mistakes. I've been following various communities on Reddit for a few years now. To name a few, Am I the A-hole, Entitled Parents, and of course this one, as well as the website Not Always Right, wondering if people like that really exist or if it was mostly creative writing. I also wondered how I would react if I ever witnessed something like that. Well, now I know. A few weeks ago on a bright Sunday morning, I was on my way to the zoo with my daughter, 2 female, and my niece, 2 and 5 female. I stopped by the grocery store for a picnic. I don't know how it is where you live, but food and drinks in amusement parks and other places are far too expensive. I had the girls in the trolley and I got in line to the cashier. The lines were long, but hey, life, right? The cashier was doing her thing while chatting with the clients, and I was minding my own business, talking with the kids and patiently waiting. Suddenly, I hear shouting and I see an irate woman yelling at the poor cashier, who was visibly getting more and more upset. The client, an older woman with no distinctive features, was yelling like a banshee because the cashier dared to wish a good day to the previous client and basically being nice and friendly, and because of that, our dear Karen was running late. Again, it was around 10:30 to 11 on a Sunday morning, for God's sake. That's when I remembered all of these stories, those poor workers who are basically not allowed to talk back and have to take the abuse, and I decided to intervene. I have a very strong voice that carries loud when I want it to. I asked aloud for the entire store to hear, "What the hell is your problem? What kind of behavior is that?" I think the Karen was not expecting someone to dare to stop her tirade. She recovered and tried replying. I stopped her and I told her that she was the only one holding back the line and that the cashier was doing her job and doing it well. In the meantime, the manager had arrived and replaced the cashier, who was crying, with another worker and came to ask what was going on. Karen starts again. I let her rant for a few seconds and then I gave my version of what happened in the most calm and sane voice possible. Let me tell you, Karen was fuming and started complaining again about the cashier being slow because she was chatting nicely with the customers, and by then her stuff was finished being run up and the manager asked her to pay and leave. This might not be the best climax compared to the other stories I've read here, and if you've read so far, I hope that you've also encountered this type of entitlement. You'll also remember all of these Reddit stories and decide to act. Thank you for reading. By the way, if you ever encounter something similar, my significant other gave me the best sentence to use just in case. Well, it's understandable. At that age, they don't have that much time left to spare, so feel free to use it if you want. Yeah, that's so awesome. Good on you for saying something. They were just being rude and awful for no reason, and the employer would have been so grateful to have you there. The next one is called Stepdaughter's Entitled Boyfriend Lands Them Homeless, Carless, and Adrift. I call my stepdaughter's entitled boyfriend Wreck-It Ralph. No relation to the trademark cartoon, just coincidental naming. He has a tendency to break up, ruin, tear up everything that he touches. My stepdaughter, who is actually a sweet and endearing young woman who I love dearly, has, like many young women with self-esteem issues, allowed herself to be led astray by Wreck-It Ralph. In the year that they've been together, she's lost everything, but at 23, she's old enough to learn her lessons without us parents coming to her rescue until she gets rid of Wreck-It Ralph and back on track. When they first got together, they lived with her dad and myself for a few months. It very quickly became apparent that Ralph had a chip on his shoulder when it came to me. He would carry tales to my husband, causing us to argue. Despite my husband telling Ralph many times that that was my house and everything in it was mine, Ralph would keep asking my husband, not me, if he could have this or that, and that's if he asked. He kept getting more and more animals despite us telling him no more. Neither were taking care of the ones they had. They weren't buying dog or cat food or cat litter. My husband and I were. They weren't picking up the messes, and they weren't training them, allowing them to tear up our belongings. Mary Jane's legal in our state, and there's a dispensary in our town, and the only work these two would do is door delivery. Her job with a daily payout, just to get enough money for Ralph to make a purchase at the dispensary every day, along with eating at a fast food restaurant. Wreck-It Ralph's chip on his shoulder when it came to me was such that they brought my husband a soda one night, walking in the back door right past me, calling out loudly, "We got you your favourite soft drink," to my husband in the living room with zero inclusion to me. Another example is my stepdaughter asking if she could use my debit card to get the 4 of us drinks at a local convenience store, one hot day that my husband and I were unloading stuff from the truck and trailer in the backyard, which was no problem. However, when checking my account, they spent 20 on food for Wreck-It Ralph without even asking. The end came when I told them they had to replace the bedroom door that their dog chewed the bottom out of, and refused to allow the pit bull mix that they wanted to rescue, even though it had a bite history, to enter my home. They moved to my stepdaughter's mother's home at that point. During their time there, my stepdaughter kept getting tickets in her car, which is only registered to my husband. They weren't paying their insurance, which I'd bought my stepdaughter her own policy and paid the startup out of my money when they did live with us, and didn't pay the plate renewal. Now her license is suspended, and it cost my husband and I $600 to get the plates, again in his name only, unsuspended. Plus they damaged the car and it needed repairs, so we took it from them before her license was suspended. But after the police took the plates from her car, my husband let her use his truck, which was on my insurance policy. Wreck-It Ralph drove it and he has no license and blew the motor in it. Oh my god. It's now sitting and it can't be used. I told my husband I'll put the car on my insurance for him, but only if he drove it. If he returned it to them, I was cancelling the insurance, which I've stood by. Nevertheless, Wreck-It Ralph called daily really demanding that my husband return the car to them once it was legal and fixed. After 3 weeks, my husband finally said, "Look, you dumbass, I don't know what it is that you think you're trying to accomplish here, but you're not demanding anything from me and you're not getting the car back. I may have originally bought it for her before she got with you, but it is my car in my name, and I'm keeping it in lieu of the truck that you ruined. Don't call me again about the car, got it?" We had been hearing ongoing disputes between my husband's ex and Wreck-It Ralph. Things got so bad there that Wreck-It Ralph told my husband's ex-wife to pack her crap and get the hell out of her own home. Another time he told her to shut the F up and remember who she's talking to. So we all decided it was time to let our daughter hit rock bottom since she wasn't seeing how Wreck-It Ralph had taken her from being a sweet, lovable, well-liked and responsible girl in a college nursing program to this person with a criminal history and no prospects at the moment. My husband's ex-wife moved in with her boyfriend, turning the power off at the home she'd been renting, and told her former landlord, whom she was actually longtime friends with, that she wouldn't allow it to affect their friendship if he evicted them for squatting, since neither were on her lease to begin with. When my stepdaughter called wanting to come back, my husband told her that she could, but Wreck-It Ralph could not. Now they're staying at a homeless shelter in the town where Wreck-It Ralph's mum lives, and Wreck-It Ralph's mum won't let them live with her either. We hate to see her go through this, but this entitled Ralph that she won't let go of has really brought her down and she can do so much better. This guy actually told us once that he couldn't work at a factory that he was interviewed at because it was climate controlled and his heart condition won't allow that, and then argued with me and my husband that climate controlled meant controlled by the climate, so it was hot in the summer and cold in the winter. We haven't seen him hold a job or do anything useful and productive since they've been together. Just demand from us and use the people who love the girl that he's become a Klingon to. God, that's so bad. I hope they realise that they can do way better. You can't be with somebody that's super entitled and just dragging you down. Ew, yeah, that's so bad. The last one for the day is called, "Oh, you work for a cruise line? I want a deal." Years ago, I worked for one of the large cruise companies at their headquarters. Pay was meh, but I did get nearly free cruises and great deals for family and friends. There was a few catches though. 1, taking advantage of the deal meant you had to behave yourself on board. Certain passengers feel they have a right to act like total a-holes to crew because they paid for the right. Crew does their best to deal with it. Want to be an a-hole? Then pay full fare. You don't get to do that on a discount trip, and if you do and it's bad enough, the ship is going to call corporate and they're revoking the employee's cruise benefits. 2, if you have trouble paying your bill at the end, alcohol or other onboard expenses that were charged to your account, the ship will call corporate and the employee, who sponsored the guests and vouched for them by agreeing to cover any unpaid bills, gets called into a very unpleasant meeting. The thoughtful, responsive relatives never even dreamed of asking for a discount trip. I had to offer in order for them to even use it. The alcoholic biatch second trophy wife of my cousin-in-law, that I barely know, tells everyone at a family gathering how excited she was that I was getting her a deal. Didn't even ask, just assumed. So I lie and I say, "Oh no, I'm so sorry, alcoholic biatch second trophy wife I just met. I only get one deal a year and mum got this year and granny got the next." Nuts, that would have been so fun. That's so annoying. People like that are super pushy and yeah, just assuming that you're gonna do something for them. So bloody infuriating. A stranger tells me to babysit her kids. I was reading another post on here that reminded me of this happening to me. I guess the lady assumed that because I was a mum, I owed it to her to watch her kids. This happened to me many years ago when my daughters were babies. I was on a leisurely stroll around my apartment complex, my baby in the stroller and my toddler walking around with me. We looked at grass, rocks and butterflies, etc. as we walked. Suddenly a woman backs her car up to me and jumps out pointing at me saying, You babysit for me, yeah?" She didn't give me time to answer and she moved quick as she opened her back doors and her trunk. She was grabbing out little zipper lunch coolers and blankets and I think a few toys. Her young kids got out of the car looking scared. She continued, "You babysit my kids, I pay you." I said, "No, I don't know you and you don't know me. Your kids don't know me." But she insisted, "I made their lunch," trying to hand me the lunch coolers. "I pay you, okay?" I insisted that I would not and she said, "Okay, babysit them just for today then, I pay you." How long had she expected this stranger to keep her kids? I said no again and walked away. She was still yelling out to me, trying to get me to babysit while I rushed away best I could with my kids. I'd never seen that woman before in my life. Crazy. Yeah, that's confusing and terrifying. Oh my god, so is the top comment. I left my then toddler in my nan's care. I came back home knowing they're at the playground. Minutes later, my nan strolls in without my kid. Turns out she needed to use the toilet, but not to worry, she left my son with this really nice man. I don't think I ever ran so fast in my life. Thank God that she left him with a normal guy. A dad playing with his own kid in the sandpit, but come on. The guy saw my face as I descended on him and said, I tried to tell her, she wouldn't listen, and she insisted it was okay. My nan was never allowed alone with my kid after that. Take my kids and babysit them, I'll pay you. Why? What's going on? Like, of course, that's super unnerving, but also so confusing. Like, why? What's happening? Is everything okay? Are you okay? Are they your children? What's going on? The next one says, neighbor takes money off of my property and then calls me rude. My friends and I were headed to the movies the other day. They carpooled to my house and then I drove from there. Note, I recently moved into this new home in a very nice neighborhood. Important later. At the theater, friend reaches into her pocket for money and realizes her cash is missing. Search around and in the car and it cannot be found. At dinner, she asked me to check my security camera to see if she dropped it in my driveway. I look, but I can't tell. However, I said there's a video 5 minutes later. It shows a car pull up and a woman jump out of the passenger seat, walk into my driveway and pick up the cash, hop back in the car and drive off. I decided to post it on Facebook in my POA group. The following: I'm hoping someone can help. My friend was visiting today and dropped some cash in my driveway. I have a video of a lady in a white car get out and come into my driveway and pick it up. I have pictures of the person and the car. If anyone has any information, please let me know. This was a lot of money to her. Thank you. I'll refrain from posting her picture because those things cannot be undone. A bit later, a lady responded, I'll come by tomorrow. That's it, nothing else. Cue the next afternoon and she comes to my door. This boomer Karen starts off the conversation in an angry way, telling me that my Facebook post was very rude because I posted that I have a picture of the person and what was I going to do? Call the police? I told her that she was lucky that I didn't post her picture and that she was in the wrong by coming onto my property and taking something that wasn't hers. I mean, she took money from my property and she's mad at me. She said it was barely on my property. Has she forgotten that I've got a video? And she was waiting to see if anyone reported it, but is mad that someone did. I told her that by her logic, if she leaves a bike in her driveway, I can grab it and take it home and keep it if no one reports it. She continued to argue and I decided I wasn't going to waste any more time on this lady. The best part? I found out that she lives right next door. Great welcome to the neighborhood. And also POA means Property Owners Association. I had no idea what that stood for. But yeah, surely tell the police about this immediately. They said they did give the money back. But still, somebody like this would probably do this again. And yeah, the way they reacted was hilarious. They're only frustrated because they got caught. And that's so annoying. Like, do you not realize that you're the one who's in the wrong? Yeah, good luck with this. I feel like somebody who would do this would definitely do it again, but hopefully not. Entitled neighbor leaves a note on my car every single week. I live in an apartment building with no parking, so I have no choice but to park on the street. My street also has a school on it that prohibits parking on its side on Monday to Friday until 6 p.m. The other side has 2-hour parking even for permit holders. The entire area is permit parking only, which I have. So there's a total of about 7 spots on my block where permit holders can leave their cars. And because of this, I can never get a spot on my block and I park 1 block down, which is the same permit zone. This area is all houses and each one has a driveway. I typically don't use my car every day, but I never go without it for long stretches unless I'm traveling. It's also a parking violation here to leave your car in one spot for longer than 72 hours, which apparently some people take very seriously. Recently, one of my neighbors has been leaving a note on my car every single week. This is not an exaggeration. I've gotten 4 notes in the last 4 weeks citing the above parking code, even if my car has only been there for less than 2 days. The note always says that I can't leave my car in one spot for multiple days, which I technically have 72 hours. I always ignore the note because even if I got reported, which I'm sure I have been, someone from the city comes out the next day for an inspection and then monitors the vehicle for the next 72 hours to see if it's still there. This law is really to prevent abandoned vehicles, not for people getting upset about cars parked in front of their houses for multiple days. The hilarious part is that the note goes on to say how disrespectful it is to your neighbors to leave your cars parked in front of their houses, but constantly leaving notes on cars is totally respectful. This has been going on for months, but this was the first time I got 4 notes in a row, and now I'm going for the high score. I know it's a law, and I rarely leave my car parked in one spot for longer than 3 days, never more than a week unless I'm traveling, in which case I leave it at the office to avoid street sweeping. Also, my car isn't old, dirty, or looks abandoned. This person truly just has nothing better to do with their life, than annoying everybody. Like, it's not even an issue, is it? I am very bored, so I'm gonna create a problem that doesn't even exist. Yeah, that's so annoying, and I'm so happy that this person doesn't care too much about it, because what are they gonna do? They are following the rules, so they're not gonna get in trouble about it. I think people just love being annoying. Entitled mum and entitled daughter in Target parking lot. This happened a few months ago. I was coming out of Target mid-morning on a weekday. I noticed 2 adult women standing by the passenger side of their vehicle, a large SUV. The SUV was parked in the very first spot in the row, but the row was off to the side of the entrance. There were 2 spaces between between their vehicle and mine. The cart return was 2 spaces over to the right of my vehicle on the other side of my vehicle from the SUV. One of the women, the younger one, was putting a toddler in a car seat. The older one was standing there talking to the younger one. As I'm walking up to my vehicle, I noticed the older one push their cart to the middle of the parking spot next to her and leave it. Now I have to admit, not putting your cart away is a pet peeve of mine. It's one of those small, low stakes things that I think show someone's character. Even still, I didn't say anything for a minute because I thought she might still put it away. But she didn't, and it quickly became clear that they were about to leave as they were getting in the car and putting on their seatbelts. So my part that I played is I did say something to her. I rolled my window down, got her attention, and said, "Hi, you forgot to put your cart away." I said it in a friendly voice because I was trying to give her an out so she could be like, "Oh, I forgot," if she wanted. But that's not what she said. She said, "If it's so important to you, why don't you do it yourself?" I said, "Okay, well, if you're not going to do it, then I will," and turned off my car and started getting out to do it. I get out and I get the cart. They call me a Karen. I said, "Sure, you leave your stuff out for other people to deal with because you can't be bothered, but I'm the Karen." As I say this, I'm pushing the cart from between our cars to take it to the cart corral thing. As I come out from between the vehicles, the employee collecting the carts come by and takes it from me. I turn and walk back. At this point, all of a sudden, the older one screams, "My husband got carjacked a month ago, you freaking biatch." Honestly, it was kind of crazy how she went from just talking crap to full-on red-face screaming in just an instant. I told her that had nothing to do with her returning her cart, and then they both yelled at me and said I don't have anything better to do than hang out in parking lots. This made me laugh because weren't we all in the parking lot? As I'm laughing, I said, "Give me a break, I'm here shopping just like you are." At this point, I start walking back to get in my vehicle. Their last shot was, "Why don't you go find a kitten to save since you're so great?" I told them I guess I'd have to since we clearly know that you wouldn't be bothered. And then I called out, "Sorry that you got caught being a crappy person." They flipped me off and drove away. Wow, that's so funny. They had absolutely no comebacks. They're like, "Yeah, well, you should stop being a Karen." Oh, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. Maybe you should stop spending all your time in a parking lot. Oh, wait, no, I'm also in a parking lot. Well, yeah, you suck. Like they knew that they were in the wrong, but they just had nothing to say. But they're the sorts of people who have to say something and get super bloody defensive for no reason instead of being like, "Oh, okay, sorry," and putting the shopping cart away. So they get angry and upset and start yelling at them, but it doesn't even make any sense. That's so funny. My former brother-in-law just found out that I play Pokemon Go and demands that I erase my account. Okay, my former brother-in-law, male 38, wants me to have zero contact with his son. I'm okay with that. I refuse to follow former brother-in-law's rules before and have zero contact, but I will not cater to outlandish demands like this one. I play Pokemon Go and I've been playing since it launched. I play with friends and my husband. We've been on this for a while and my nephew used to play when his mother was alive. I barely know who is on or what, just that I send gifts and nothing else. Recently I got an email from my former brother-in-law demanding that I stop playing since his son and stepson play. I'm like, okay, whatever pal, and ignored the email entirely. He continued to email and then told a lawyer about it. There's nothing he can do to stop me, and I was just sent an email just asking to delete my nephew's friend's profile from my account. I did that and I hope that was enough to shut this entitled guy up. Yeah, no, he wants me flat off the game entirely. I mean, he has full custody of my nephew. What else does this jerk want from me? I don't even consider my nephew family anymore, and I practically erased all trace of my nephew's pictures from my Facebook and Instagram. I also erased contact information, but the guy does have email, but not a phone number or any other contact information. I emailed and I told him that I'm not deleting my account on Pokemon Go, so grow the hell up and leave me alone. I also said I'll contact my husband's lawyer and would be in touch. He contacted me after I told him to move on and leave us alone. I want nothing to do with him or my nephew. I'm not gonna do any damn requests or take threats of lying down. It's just a game I play with people you called worse than drug addicts, so F off. He hasn't responded since I sent that message and I got called a biatch by one of his friends because I actually had the gall to not fold to demands. I honestly don't get why former brother-in-law can boss me around like I'm some child. Also, I never requested visits from my nephew since 2022 and refused to send gifts, so what the hell? It isn't like his son can send me messages over Pokemon Go. I also told his lawyer what they do is for them and them alone. I want no contact or any information if there's an emergency. I couldn't care less if my nephew ends up in a foster care if something happens to former brother-in-law or his current wife. It isn't my fault or responsibility. His lawyer said, "I'm fed up and I don't want to deal with this anymore." In fact, his lawyer took my side, saying that the demands were outlandish and rude. Former brother-in-law can't tell me I can't attend anime, sci-fi, or events that I've attended for years for fear that my nephew would be attending. I'm not interested in a relationship with a kid who I barely know anymore. So why does this guy, former brother-in-law, get off on talking crap? He's entitled and I want no desire to disrupt my own life to appease him. All because I play a game on my phone while walking to work, so they think that you can talk with their son on Pokemon Go or something, and they somehow can stop you from using it, even though you can't do that on Pokemon Go. I feel bad for their son. This comment's good. I'd keep a screenshot trail of all his messages so in the future, if the nephew tries to build a relationship with you and wants to know why you weren't involved in his life, you can send him the facts that his father wanted you to have no contact, etc. That way his father can't claim that it was your decision. Yeah, what a crappy thing to do. And for what reason? Yeah, what they're trying to do doesn't even make any sense. And yeah, good luck with this. The next one is called Everyone Here Knows Me. No, they don't. For a period of about 3 years in the early 2000s, I worked as a bank teller. For the most part, it was a good job. My customers were nice, my co-workers were fun to be with, and I enjoyed myself. The branch I worked at was in an area of town that had a lot of retired people who had all purchased their homes 50 years earlier and had never left. They were retired factory workers, construction workers, police officers, firefighters, teachers, and service industry workers. I say that to point out that this was a solid working class neighbourhood that definitely skewed towards older demographic. At least 50% of our day-to-day business was with customers who'd been coming to that branch since the Kennedy administration. This was a problem for new employees. We'd often get yelled at by biatchy old Karens when we asked for identification, something required to access bank accounts if the teller couldn't personally vouch for you. Now, most old Karens and Kevins will get pissy for a moment and claim that they'd never been asked for ID before. BS. But they'd eventually relent and give me the ID I required, but not Queen Karen. I'd gotten to know almost all of the regulars and no longer needed ID from them. If Mary came in, I could pull her account up in a heartbeat since she was in there 3 days a week. If Ed needed to cash a check, I did it without question since Ed only ever came to me. Enter Queen Karen, a woman in her late 70s, absolutely dripping in both diamonds and arrogance. The woman had some serious money and wanted everyone to know it. As I said, this branch was in a working class area, but Queen Karen was wearing tens of thousands of dollars in diamond jewelry and had pulled up in a brand new Mercedes S-Class. From the moment she walked in the door, she wore an expression like she was being forced to handle warm dog crap. Me, good morning ma'am, how can I help you today? Karen, I need to pull $5,000 out of my savings, all in hundreds please. She hands me a withdrawal slip with her name and account number filled in. Certainly ma'am, I just need a photo ID please. No. Excuse me? I've never been asked for ID before and I won't be asked for it today. Everyone here knows me, so just do what I ask. Okay ma'am, can you tell me which teller knows you? If they sign off on the withdrawal form, I'll be happy to help. This was allowed as an acceptable ID, but we were told that it was only to be used for customers who a branch employee knew personally and could guarantee was who they said they were. It also protected me. If another teller signed the withdrawal form and Karen turned out not to be who she claimed, the other teller would take a hit, not me. Karen, everyone, just go ask someone else. Me, of course ma'am, please give me a moment. I went to every single employee of the branch. I talked to every teller, every loan officer, our investment broker, and both the branch manager and assistant manager, AM, who will show up again in a moment. No one in that branch had a clue who they were, including employees who had been there for more than a decade. I'm sorry ma'am, but I can't seem to find anyone who knows you, so I will need to see an ID. I understand this is an inconvenience, but it's for your safety. We don't want someone to take money out of your account by pretending to be you. Karen, no, I refuse to be treated this way. Everyone here knows me. I've been banking here longer than you've been alive and have quite a bit of money with your bank. Don't make me take my accounts elsewhere. At this point, AM heard the commotion and came over to see what was going on. I let her take over and deal with Karen. She got paid for that. I didn't. After some back and forth about how I wasn't doing my job and how I was an incompetent boob, how she had so much money at that branch, and how asking for an ID was, in her view, accusing her of being a criminal, my AM was about ready to punch her in the face. AM, again ma'am, we asked for ID to protect your account. Would you want someone to come in here and pretend to be you, taking money out of your account simply by giving your name? Karen, don't be ridiculous. No one would do that. Now you're just making things up to cover the fact that you and this teller are incompetent. My name is all you're gonna get. AM, ma'am, if you don't show us an ID, we're not gonna process your withdrawal, period. Karen, listen you little biatch, do you have any idea who I am? I'm half tempted to close my accounts here just to teach you a lesson, but fine, you want to play it that way? Then let's let you have your fun. Karen proceeded to open her purse and throw her ID, her checkbook, a credit card, a social security card, an AARP card, and half a dozen other things at me like she was trying to kill me with them. With each card thrown at my face, she called me stupid, an a-hole, worthless, a nobody, etc. AM, that's it. Fastest, you have the ID you need. Please close this woman's accounts and issue a cashier's check for the amount. Me, all of them. AM, all of them. She's no longer a customer here. Karen, what the hell do you think you're doing? AM, ma'am, we tried to be polite with you, but you wouldn't have it. You will not insult me or my tellers. You most certainly will not throw things at them when they're doing their jobs, and you're no longer welcome in this branch. We're closing your accounts and you're free to open accounts at another bank. And that's exactly what we did. Karen tried to scream about how we had no legal right to do that, but we did. Bank accounts are owned by the bank. Opening an account just means that the bank is allowing you to use them to hold your money and process your financial transactions. So long as all the money in the account is returned to you, banks are well within their legal rights to close your account. It took about 10 minutes. 10 minutes of Karen screaming at both me and AM, issuing hollow legal threats about lawsuits, but all of her checking and savings accounts were closed. I printed up a check for the mid-six figures made out to her. AM signed it. I couldn't sign off on checks that high, and Karen was shown the door. As a parting gift, AM told her that the police would be involved if she ever came back to that branch again. Oh, that's amazing and so satisfying. Like, yeah, get out of here. You think you can treat people like this? Your assistant manager sounds like a legend. I like the entitled people stories where they have a good ending. Like, yeah, stop being so entitled and feeling like you can act like this and treat people awfully and get away with it. The next one is called A Strange Mum's Friend Finds Me at Work and Asks Me to Help Her Do Menial Stuff. Me and my mum don't talk anymore. She was always hard to get along with, but the past year or so has been unmanageable. I'm not sure what exactly is going on, but I suspect mental illness, but I can't confirm it. She refuses any help and I just had to disconnect. Mum had a friend that always asked me for favors. She'd get mum to text me while I was at work and tell, not ask me, to stop at Starbucks, which was nearly an hour out of my way, and spend my money on buying her coffee. She'd offer my grown ass $5 to $7 to clean her car for her. She'd ask my parents to move my grown ass to the couch and to let her sleep in my bed, the mattress I paid for when I lived at home. Oh my god, they think you're a child. Time went on and I changed jobs a lot. At one point I worked at a Dollar General and this woman found out I worked there and just became ridiculous. The first time she came in, she stood at the door and asked me to find stuff for her. I did it once and she tried to send me back to get a different variety of the item. I just told her what aisle it was on and basically stared at it until she went to look. She would come in fairly often and buy random crap while asking me scores of questions about items, and I had no way of answering. She'd always pay in painfully extra ways. I never minded someone wanting to put some of it on one card and the rest on another card. I know sometimes you're in a weird spot, but she did that as a matter of course. My co-workers finally started letting me go on break when she showed up, and I'd hide or chill at least until she checked out and left. That's all the backstory. Currently I work in a non-public facing role in a school-like facility. It's a rehabilitation setting for mentally handicapped adults. That is to say, there's absolutely no reason for this woman to swing by here. Now, we do allow and encourage visitors, but we mean visitors for clients, not staff. This woman apparently bumbled around the front desk for a bit before somebody asked her what she needed. She asked where I was, and my well-meaning co-worker pointed her in my direction. She walked into my room and just started jabbering at me. I think she must have been on something because it was this like endless run-on sentence with no end. Everything she said is kind of a fog, but she just rattled off like so many little demands. She wanted me to help her move some furniture around, and she wanted to give me $10 to mow her very large yard. She wanted me to give my mum money since I'm doing so well. Yo, I drive a 20-year-old car. She mentioned something about gas money, something about me needing a haircut. She's worked at a salon. Maybe she wanted me to pay her to cut my hair. If I had to sum it up, it was a lot of man chores and IT. She made several other demands, some of which are harder to convey without context, and I eventually just kind of physically walked her to the door and just kind of lied and said that she couldn't be here. I then talked to my bosses and got them on board. Yeah, like the top comment says, I demand you make me a cake and wash my car and then go help your mother with her garden. Yeah, like what are they talking about? Yeah, you must do these random pointless things. Get out of here. Who do you think you are to even ask this of them? I'm the neighborhood Karen, but not really. There's a hill on my street. I live close to the high school. Sometimes when you drive around the parked cars, it sends you face to face with another car on the downhill. There's an extra no parking sign to remind people to not be there. House went up for sale. The realtors would park directly under the no parking sign. I one day walked over to the main realtor and I warned her to not park there or she'll get hit. She moved her car and believed me when she saw traffic after school let out. Another time a realtor parked there, I warned him and he responded with, I've already been told about you. It's fine. In the most dismissive way, a teenager came over the hill in Dad's old pickup truck and crushed the front of the guy's red sports car. The kid was not hurt and certain that he was not blamed for the accident. Oh my god, that's like instant karma. No way. When I first started reading this, I thought you were gonna say that you're the entitled person, but no, it's these bloody real estate agents. And you 100% did the right thing. You were only trying to help. They're just being so rude. Like, oh yeah, nah, it's totally fine. I don't need to move my car. Pretty much immediately someone somebody runs into their car. Yeah, maybe that wouldn't have happened if you moved your car. Unbelievable. Story number 2 is called 12 Entitled People in an Airbnb Designed for 6. Cost me $600. I thought you might enjoy my second thirsty biatch story. I posted previously here about a client of mine with a similar story, but this is the origin story that happened years before that other post. My wife and I own a mountain cabin, and a few years ago we decided to put it up on Airbnb. The place is a remote A-frame on 3 acres of forested land with awesome views, and it's about 30 minutes from a ski resort. This was our first Airbnb, so we are pretty cautious with everything, i.e. looking at guest past reviews, asking them about their trip to make sure that this place would suit them, etc. Everything was going pretty well until the entitled people booked the whole weekend for Thanksgiving. They told us they were driving out from Texas. Mum, dad, 3 little kids and 2 dogs. Being that this was our first holiday rental, we went all out for them. We set a turkey to defrost in the fridge for them, and we left out a snack platter and a couple of bottles of champagne. They arrive on Sunday night, and the next few days all hell breaks loose. I get a 6 a.m. call Monday morning. The whole family is puking and sick as hell. They all had altitude sickness. The cabin is at 11,000 feet above sea level, so this does happen, especially when you aren't in shape and you just came from sea level. I did warn the guests about this ahead of time, so I'm on the phone talking them through everything, where the urgent care is, what to do, etc. By day 2, things have calmed down, Tuesday. However, then I take a look at our water cistern gauge, remote monitored. The house has what we'll call a slow well recovery system. Basically, at some times of the year, the well might only produce around 60 gallons per day instead of the usual 300 plus. So we have a 500 gallon water storage system, which helps smooth out the demand curves. Basically, once the tank goes below 40%, the well starts pumping, and if the well goes dry, a timer gets started and it'll pump again in 3 hours until the tank is topped up. There's a full description in the listing and guidebook. This system is more than adequate for 6 guests. Also, the house only has 1 bathroom and a 40 gallon hot water tank, so it's not like anyone can take long showers, and that's all in the listing. It's a rustic place. Tactically speaking, we just ask the guests to conserve water, but the system is automatic and no one knows it's there. Well, after 48 hours, I checked our tank monitor and I see that it's around 35% full, which means the guests have used all of the storage plus what the well can produce in 2 days. I'm estimating nearly 700 gallons of water. I literally thought something must have broken because there was no way in hell 2 parents and 3 little kids used that much water. Like maybe the well fuse popped and they got nothing from the well. So I'm now freaking out thinking that this nice family is going to be out of water on Thanksgiving. I called her and I politely asked that they conserve water and had them reset the system, aka turn the breaker on and off. So I basically said that I'd monitor it for the next 3 hours, and if I didn't see the levels make progress, I'll get a water truck in. This would literally be a first, as I've never needed to do it. Her response, sounds good, but hurry because we drink a lot of water. How weird of a comment is that? As if 5 people drinking a gallon a day, max, somehow equates to the hundreds of gallons missing from the system. Well, there's really no change in the water level after 3 hours, so I get on the phone to book a water truck, and as it's now 1 day before Thanksgiving, it's just not gonna happen. So I now need to figure out how to transport water to this house. I live 1.5 hours away. I went to Farm and Tractor Supply and I bought a 275 gallon tank that would fit in my truck, plus hoses and pumps. Then I drove up there, figure out where I can buy bulk water from, and then I go to the house. I finally get there around 4 p.m. and the guests are out, but they gave me permission to go inside and test things out. AKA, I wanted to make sure the system was working. It was so they really did use that. I went inside and I found 2 huskies in a crate who'd pooped themselves and it was all over the place. The place smelled gross. The owner said they'd be back and they'd clean it up. At this point, I've been working on this for like 8 hours. I'm sick. It's 10 degrees Fahrenheit outside and I'm now hooking up the transfer pump. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving and I still need to get to my parents' house. Thankfully, only 30 minutes from here. I start pumping and then I see their car pull up and they're waiting at the bottom of the driveway. Knowing they have small kids, I go down and I say hi and I let them know that they can go in and I'll be done in about 40 minutes. They started to act real odd at this point, but they go ahead in. Then I saw 2 more cars on the side of the road around the switchback, a big steep S-bend in front of the house, and it clicks. The reason I just did all of this work and spent nearly $600 on supplies is because these people had 12 people staying there. If you all are curious as to how I didn't notice when I went outside, I didn't snoop around. I just went straight into the breaker box and then went to the crawl space where the tanks are. Also, the smell from the dogs was just horrid, so I got out as fast as possible. At this point, I went up to the front door, knocked and said, "Be honest with me, how many people do you have staying here?" Her, 9. I could see that she was lying, but even that number was over our legal capacity based on our permit. Me, you realize that the listing is for 6. Her, well, there are beds for more people and the kids have a crib, and we didn't know that our family wanted to come when we booked it. The loft does have a pull-out couch, so best case they're sleeping for 8 adults, but but I'm guessing that people were sleeping on the couches as well. I just spent $600 plus a full day to solve a problem that was actually not a problem. Her, well, the house should have water. Me, the house system was designed and tested for 6, the stated number on the listing. I don't know how you think it's okay to have this many people here. Her, we could leave, but it would have to be tomorrow and we expect a refund because we don't want to drive down these roads in the dark with our kids. It's maybe 6 p.m. at this point. No cell service at the cabin, so I went to town and got in the Wi-Fi at a local bar and called Airbnb. At this point, I'd been hosting for 3 months and I had no idea how to handle this situation, but now I was more afraid that they'd damaged something in the house, so Airbnb cancelled their reservation and asked them to leave the house. I was able to recover around $200 for a deep cleaning on the house, and they didn't get a refund. On a funny note, at the beginning of this year, I started a hot tub service company, and water trucking is a service that we do offer, and I use some of that equipment to get started. Oh my god, I can't even imagine dealing with this. Sounds like a bloody nightmare. Like, oh yeah, I know it said 6 people, but I'm gonna bring twice as many? Nah, get out of here. So frustrating. And not to mention all the extra people, but the dogs in there as well. It would have been such a mess after this. Okay, story number 3 is called Lady Gets a Ticket After People Kindly Warned Her. This is from a few months ago, but it's still gold. There's an intersection by my work that connects 2 main roads, east, west, north, and south. When you come to this intersection from any direction, you won't be able to turn left. There's signs everywhere telling you no turning left. Easy, right? No, not easy. Living in that town and going to work where I work for almost a decade, I've seen so many people turn left. People usually just honk and swear, but this time there was a cop waiting to go through. East. This lady pulls up in a nice Cadillac. Nice. She's coming from the south and goes to turn. You guessed it, left. Now, people see the cop. They know that her getting pulled over will slow down traffic as it's a 2-lane street. So, panic ensues. Honking, yelling, and some swearing. One guy on the street, "Lady, don't turn left, there's a cop." Don't turn left, like a freaking chant. This lady rolls down her window the rest of the way. At this point, she's mid-intersection going to turn left. The cop is shaking his head too. Bro looked like he was on lunch and he was so pissed. Like he's close enough I can see the sandwich bag in his car. Lady yells out, and I'll never forget, "I can do whatever the hell I want to. I will do whatever I want to, and if I want to turn left, I'm gonna freaking turn left. I don't care." And left she goes. The cop looks down. Lunchtime has been interrupted. His windows may have been closed, but you can tell when someone yells, "You know what?" He turns around and puts his lights on. Of course she pulled over. She can do whatever she wants until the cops are there. Oh my god, that's so funny. I can do whatever I want, and that includes getting pulled over. How embarrassing. And the cop's like, "Oh, come on, can't I please eat my lunch?" I think the funniest part about this is how they got upset. Like, why are you getting frustrated at this person that's telling you not to go left? Like it's some sort of personal attack or something? You literally aren't allowed to turn left, and they're only trying to let you know that you can't do that, but they take it personally, and they're like, "I can do whatever I want." Well, yeah, not in this situation. Story number 4 is called Customer Wanted My Hat Because You're Just a Poor Student. You shouldn't be able to afford this. As the title suggests, the customer believed that because I was a student, I couldn't afford to buy a quality product. Background, I came to the UK as an international student after completing my bachelor's in my home country to pursue a master's here. Like any student, I had trouble finding a decent job to work my hours, but eventually I found one at a normalish store that opens 24 hours. Fast forward to 1 year later, and I'm almost at the end of my degree, and I'm working at the store in a supervisor capacity, which comes with a minimal raise as well. In the past year, I've set aside some savings from each month's salary, and so now I decided to spend some on myself. I went and bought a cap from a well-known brand to replace the one that I'd brought with me, as it was getting frayed from the corners, etc. The event, this happens as I'm walking to the store in the morning around 9:30. The store's located next to the underground, so we see all kinds of characters in terms of dunks and kids and general shoppers. My entitled person happens to be a woman in her late 30s who gives off pure "I'm whiter therefore better" vibes. Entitled person, "Excuse me, I need you to get me" item that she was standing literally right next to. "Ma'am, it's on the shelf behind you." "I can't see it, so get this and don't be rude and take off your cap when talking to me." Mumble something about students. "Store rules permit us to wear caps as long as we're not on the till." Me, "I'm allowed to wear the cap by the manager and also because it's a bit chilly, but that won't affect any help you need." Entitled person looks at my hat. "Where did you get this?" Me, "I bought it." Entitled person, "You're just a poor student. No way you bought this on your salary. A customer must have forgotten it and you must have nicked it." "Ma'am, I don't know how to convince you, but I bought this with my own money and I could even show you the receipt." "Thank you, digital receipt." Entitled person, "Receipts can be photoshopped. Give me this hat. It probably looks better on me anyway, and it's much more my class." Yeah, she said class, not style. As this conversation conversation is happening. I'm finishing with my work in the aisle and I try to leave, but she insists on creating a ruckus. The sole point being that I stole that hat and I must be stealing from the store too, at which point my manager steps in and asks her to leave. She does so, but not before trying to sneak the item that she wanted into her bag, resulting in a banning notice. Wait, so they're getting upset at you because they think that you stole your hat while they're trying to steal something? What? Oh my god, that's so bad. And so comical too. Like, is this a skit? How is that a real situation that happened? Some people need to mind their own business so bad, but at the same time, so many people are dead set on being annoying and making everybody's day just a little bit worse. You wouldn't even know what to say in a situation like this. Probably laugh. Story number 5 is called People Trying to Reserve a Parking Space in a Public Beach Parking Lot. Vacationing on the Big Island. Head to one beach, lot is full. Change your plans, head to Harpuna Beach. Pull into the lot, one shaded spot left. Someone is standing in it. Imagine the worst stereotype of an entitled American white tourist. A group of them. Wife is driving. I roll down the window. What's going on? Them. Oh, we're saving this for our brother who's right behind you. Me. You can't save and reserve a public parking space. You can ask, but I can say no. Sorry, but I got 2 young kids. I'm gonna park here. Them. There's parking right there. Pointed at the non-shaded spot. Me. Great, your brother can park there. Wife pulls into the space and they move. Curses. Waving of hands. Me. Hey, this is like the carry-on luggage overhead space on a plane. First come, first served. Them. Calling me all sorts of bad names in front of my kids. Me. Locks eyes with my 8-year-old. I'm barely able to hold in the laughter. Go to the beach, have a good time. No slashed tires or smashed windows. For clarity, I'm a white American tourist who strives not to be an entitled prick. Also, if somebody set up a barbecue or had some sort of RV and a table there, whatever, wouldn't care. The fact that they tried to reserve a public space for someone not even there yet, they can get out of here. Yeah, like they can't do what they did, and it is super frustrating. But at the same time, I feel like you cared way too much about this. Like what, the only reason you didn't park in the other spot was because it was sunny? Like, I understand that the people standing in the way shouldn't have done that, but I feel like all of this was kinda unnecessary. This comment says, man, this guy wakes up and does battle every day. Cool your jets, bro. Park in the sun. Put your luggage elsewhere. Be cool and don't fight the world. Yeah, that's the vibe it gave off. Just sorta didn't need to happen. Okay, story number 6 is called Entitled Customer Wanted Me to Follow Her Home. First time posting here. This happened a few days ago and I still can't believe it. I, 25 male, work at a garden nursery. It's a decent size with the shop in the middle and outdoor plants on benches and racks around it with a car park. Enter a lady in her 60s and her brother. They drove into our nursery. We have a 100 meter or so driveway through the plants. As the owner was walking along it, they beeped at him and she started yelling at him about selling her a dead tree to plant for it to sprout. I don't know either. Anyway, not a good start. They park and they walk around for a bit. The brother asked me all sorts of questions and wanting discounts on plants. No discounts unless they're old. And starts basically interrogating me about my life and what I'm doing for work, which I just say yes and no to without actually telling the truth. I finally get rid of him and I'm walking through checking that no plants need water. The lady then spots me and starts to yell at me from about 80 meters away. Now some people do this and I go to them even though it annoys me that they're pretty much calling me like a dog. Maybe they're handicapped and it's hard for them to walk. Well, this lady barely speaks English and is rambling something at me and I keep asking her to repeat herself. Finally, I understand that she wants to buy a tree. It's a big weeping cherry. It's 2 meters tall, 2.5 meters including the pot, which is 90 liters of soil and really heavy. I take the price and I walk with her to the shop where I ask her if she'd like it delivered. Now, we have a big truck for deliveries and it goes out once a week. We never do free deliveries. They don't cost much, but just to cover fuel and time for the driver. Anyway, she says no, she doesn't want it delivered and says, my car, pointing at her SUV. I think to myself, there's no way that tree and a massive pot is going to fit in there, but whatever, and I put the sale through. I get a tree trolley and I bring the tree to a car. Her brother's in the driver's seat and she goes and gets into the back seat of the car. So I say, where do you want me to put it? She looks at me in the eyes and says, put it in your car and you come follow me. I was like, what? And she repeated again. I literally just laughed and said, what are you talking about? She kept repeating it louder and louder. I told her, no, I'm not delivering this tree. You said you didn't want it delivered and you didn't pay for delivery. She then says that she didn't know that she had to pay and how much was it? I said, where to? And she eventually said a suburb 15 minutes away. I told her what it was and she said, okay, follow me home and I'll pay you then. I said, no, that's not how it works and it'll be delivered on Friday when she pays, and to come back inside the shop after some more time yelling instructions at me and talking to her brother in another language. I put the tree next to the shop and she came to keep yelling at me to deliver the tree and she'd pay me when I followed her home. I was done. I yelled at at her in the same tone that she'd been yelling at me. I can't. My car cannot fit that tree. Only the truck can. I can't drive the truck. It's impossible for me to deliver the tree even if I wanted to, which I don't. After a bit more, she finally realized that it wasn't going to happen. Now, she had this weird thing, as did her brother, where they wouldn't talk or interact with the female staff members. So when I took her inside and the other owner, the owners are a couple, was at the register, she wouldn't talk to her. I told the owner what was happening and that this lady needed to organize delivery and went to walk off. This lady then screams at me, "Excuse me," because I was going. I spun around and snapped, "She will get your delivery details. She'll help you." Well, the lady basically just walked back off to her car and started driving off. We had no delivery payment, number, address, and even a name. I had to run out to their car and stop them. She wouldn't give me her address, and when she finally did, when I looked it on Google Maps, it didn't even exist. So she paid for a tree and we had no way to get it to her. The following day, the brother rings up wanting to know about the delivery. It's Thursday, the day before deliveries. I told the work group chat what happened so everyone knew what was happening if these people came back. Anyway, one of our female staff members answered the phone and tells the guy everything I said and how they need to pay. He wouldn't listen to her, kept interrupting her and complaining. It ended with her telling him to F off and hung up. She did this because she thought that we could refund their credit card and never serve them again. However, they paid in cash, so another staff member had to ring them back up, smooth it all over and have him come in with his van and collect the tree. I really hope they don't come back. Wow, that's so bad. How would you get anything done ever if you were somebody who acted like this? Being so difficult for no reason. This has been such a fun episode so far. I hope you guys are having a good time. Story number 7 is called Entitled Parent Says That Free Ride Is Not Good Enough. First post, sorry, a long one. Happened a couple of years ago. New family moved in a couple of doors down with a son same age as my youngest. We live in the boondocks 3 kilometers from the nearest school bus stop. All parents drive their kids to the stop and they wait in the car until the bus comes. There are no street lights with bears and cougars. After a while we got to be friendly. Even though the mum was loud and spoke aggressively, the rest of the family didn't like her and we discussed our transportation plans. I'm lucky enough to have a brother with a disability who takes my kids to the bus when my husband and I work. My neighbor, EN, entitled neighbor, asked if my brother would consider picking up her son as well on the way by and she would pay him $20 a month. He agreed and was feeling pretty proud of having a job. 2 months later, he told me that she then offered more pay, $40 a month. He was very pleased about that. Being in the boonies, we had to drive down their very dark, narrow driveway and then turn around in a very small area in front of their house to go back out. It was difficult. If my brother wasn't feeling well, other family members took driving duty and picked up the other child. No matter what, our whole family was happy to help my brother with his job. Sometimes the child was sick and they didn't let us know. Sometimes he was still asleep and we were waiting. Sometimes the parents were even at home and they didn't take their own child. The parents always left earlier and the child around 8 to 10 years old was left alone until we arrived for pickup. This went on for almost 2 years. The second year, she contacted us and offered to bring over a cheesecake at Christmas time to thank my brother. I said that was very kind, but she didn't have to. I'm sure my brother would like it. I can't eat dairy, but very kind. She said non-dairy. I said again, not necessary, but you know, a kind thing. She never brought over anything, not even a card. My brother got no contact from her directly to be thanked at all. So one day I get a text from the entitled neighbor that she wasn't happy with her son riding in our work truck to and from the school bus, that there were tools that had to be moved over so we could sit. I was flabbergasted. We all live on a steep hill, so having a big truck with 4-wheel drive is the safest vehicle that we owned. Snow, ice, rain, you name it. The drive took less than 10 minutes. So what if we had to push tools out of the way so he could sit? I was fuming over her presumption when I had a conversation with my brother about her paying you $40 a month, and he told me that she only paid him twice or maybe 3 times. Been a few years, can't even remember exactly. The whole time, and never paid him $40 at all. It was the $20 payments. I was furious that he hadn't mentioned it before, and that she'd been taking advantage of the whole family for almost 2 years. Our family had bent over backwards for this child. Even if my own child wasn't going to school, we'd still get up and go get the neighbor's child. So I texted the entitled neighbor. So I just talked to my brother and he told me that you've only paid him 2 or 3 times in the last 2 years. Can you please explain? I'm confused. The agreement was $20 a month and then you offered $40. What's going on? Entitled neighbor. I can't remember her exact words, but no apology, no offer of payment, and I offered to bring you a cheesecake at Christmas, but you said that you didn't want one. I didn't say that. I said she didn't have to. Me, humble country person. I fully expected her to bring one. I then told her we were under no circumstances going to continue this way. I said that payment had to be made. We had to be given notice if child was not going to school, that he had to meet us at the top of his driveway instead of battling down their drive, that if parents were home, they took him and we were still going to be taking our truck most of the time. I didn't want to deal with that family anymore, so I just said every demand that I could think of, knowing that her personality would blow up. Entitled neighbor, he'll get picked up at our door if I say he's going to be picked up at our door. I know there was no way that they were going to back pay the fees, as they were constantly complaining about money, so I said, well, this isn't working for us, so you're going to have to make other arrangements as we'll no longer be driving your son, so consider the last 15 months, excluding summer and Christmas breaks, etc., a gift from our family to yours, and we'll just leave it there. Entitled neighbor, how are we supposed to get our son to the bus? We need someone to drop him off and pick him up at the end of the day. We'll be at work. Why are you being such a hard ass? I ignored her and I blocked her. I didn't speak to her family for years. I was furious at her outrageous statement. My friend said it best. What pisses me off the most is people who get something for free, then feel entitled to it for free, and then they complain that what they're getting for free isn't good enough for them anymore. The family changed their son's school back to the private school that he had before. That was closer to their work. Edit, I remember more now. Her response to me asking about the payment was, well, he never asked me for it. No, that's too infuriating. This is a real person. These are real people that are acting like this. You're telling me this isn't creative writing? I bloody hope it is. Completely taking advantage of you guys, and you're so unbelievably entitled. My sister-in-law got a new engagement and wedding band, and it's the exact same one as mine. My sister-in-law copied my engagement ring, and I'm trying not to get pissed off. My sister-in-law has always hated me. From the moment I got with my now husband, her husband's twin, she's always hated me. The first thing she ever said to me was that I'm the longest-lasting girlfriend, and since that day, there's been this weird unspoken competition where she's always trying to belittle me, make me feel small and insecure. At first, it used to work, but now it just pisses me off. She bragged about seeing my husband, boyfriend at the time, naked before. She's made comments about my sister's marriage unnecessarily. She's just jealous or something and always has something to say to demean me. She goes and changes into outfits that match mine and literally copies me in everything. Well, me and my husband got married recently and he bought me a new ring because of our new journey in life, because we'd grown so much. And then today I went to my mother-in-law's house to celebrate someone's birthday, and she's here with my husband's twin. I look at her and she copied my ring. Exactly. My husband bought me a new 5-carat pair rose gold double halo ring, and she has the exact same one. I'm so angry. Added note, she's also copied our other sister-in-law's engagement ring. My husband has 7 brothers, and the eldest got married first, and then she did, and then she had the exact same ring as that girl too. So I know this behavior isn't random or a coincidence. I'm trying to contain myself because it's not a big deal, and it's just materialistic things, but I'm fuming and I'm so annoyed. I don't want to talk to her at all at this trip. Should I confront her or just leave it? Edit, I was with my husband and his twin and I asked him, oh, I saw so-and-so got a new ring. He explained that he got her a ring because they've been together for 5 years, and allegedly a new ring is what you would give someone on the 5-year mark. Oh, right, okay, so they updated their wedding ring right after they saw your wedding ring? Yeah, that's not sus at all, is it? Not to mention, it's the same bloody ring. Are they like seeking your approval or something? Why would they do that? He kinda wasn't making sense and kept on stuttering. He did admit that he didn't even buy it, but then backtracked and said that he bought the ring and the wedding band separately. I thought it was all so weird and kinda didn't make sense, and I easily transitioned the conversation to something else. Right, so as if your sister-in-law just told them to get this. I'm not as angry, but more so just like, who wants to have the same ring as someone else in your family? Like, wouldn't you want something unique? But it is what it is. Our wedding bands will look completely different. Edit number 2, just got him and feeling so down because I've been dealing with her crap for 6 years, and now she wants to copy my ring and belittle me about being a mum and wanting kids now that she has her own. I was super nice today and I interacted with her and I joked, and looking back on it, I hated it and I wished I would have continued to give her the cold shoulder. I really don't know how to navigate this relationship anymore, and we're supposed to be spending the holiday at her house and I'm about to just stay home by myself since I know my husband will likely go. I know this seems dramatic, but goodness gracious, I've been nothing but kind to her and only confronted her once, which resulted in me being in the wrong because I should have just left it alone, and now I'm sick of it. Really sick of it. Yeah, right. It makes it pretty hard because it's your sister-in-law, but it sounds like they're awful to you, and you don't need somebody in your life that treats you like this. I'd be as low contact with them as humanly possible. So everyone has been asking for an update. Here are a few things. Why this upsets me is because she's been bullying me since I got into the family, and it's annoying for me to share a ring with someone who's been bullying me for so long, on top of the fact that I personally personally believe that your engagement and wedding ring should be unique to your relationship, and it's annoying that she has no sense of originality. Oh god, they're sounding even more awful every paragraph. I talked to my husband about it. We actually argued until he understood, but it's now agreed that I'm just not going to talk to her. She literally isn't worth talking to, and after further thinking and reflecting, she waits for me to talk to her. She doesn't even engage with me after the initial hello. She just stares at me the majority of the time, waiting for me to acknowledge her, and I don't know why, but I'm just gonna hover around my husband because she's kind of afraid of him. But overall, she just completely stares at me when we're together, which I think is weird. So I'm assuming she's low-key watching my every move, which is just weird. I won't confront her because the minute she catches an attitude, it'll be an immediate argument and fight. On Saturday during dinner, I'd asked her if she was participating in other activities with us, and she got an attitude randomly. They sound so immature because I was confirming that she didn't want us buying any extra tickets. My husband bought her the second activity, his twin paid for dinner. She immediately got an attitude with me for no reason, and I almost snapped at her, but my husband grabbed my hand and answered for me. He confirmed that her attitude was unwarranted, and if I were to confront her, the attitude would set me off, so I'm not saying anything to her. Added this real fast. I've also reflected, and she thrives off me talking to her. Unless I'm asking her about her life and kind of kissing ass, she's in an amazing mood and so happy to brag and lie. So I think that killing her with kindness, which I have been doing, only makes her feel better, so I'm gonna act as if she doesn't even exist, and when she does talk to me, it'll be very bland and bored with our conversation. I am debating between getting my ring customized. We have a jeweler friend who could customize it for us. Not sure if I want to do it or not. I just like to have something original and my own, but that is still up in the air. I've also realized that she's a compulsive liar. I was reflecting on a conversation we had that same night, and we were talking about her pregnancy with our mother-in-law. She mentioned how her placenta was 20 pounds, and I was genuinely shocked because what the hell, I didn't know that. She made me out to look dumb by saying, yeah, you clearly don't know anything about placentas. I would know since I'm a nurse. Oh, so annoying. She's not a nurse, she's a CNA. I googled it yesterday, and placentas usually are no bigger than 3 or 4 pounds, so why she felt the need to say that is beyond me, and why she felt the need to make me look stupid when her information is beyond inaccurate is beyond me. I would love some opinions there because why lie about that? That's such a weird thing to lie about. In conclusion, she's crazy and extremely insecure and is unhappy with herself and her marriage. She bullied her husband and everybody knows it. She's a compulsive liar and doesn't like me for some reason, which is fine. I'm gonna start acting like she doesn't exist. The only reason I tried being nice to her constantly is because everyone in the family doesn't like her and wish the other twin didn't marry her, so I didn't want her to feel alone, but screw it. She can happily be ostracized and ignored because I'm the only person, aside from my mother-in-law and her husband, who gives her even an ounce of attention. I think she's miserable and that has nothing to do with me, and the more I talk to her, the more ammo she can receive. I do understand this is a first world problem, lol. I just wanted to vent. The Kim people are dying comment made me laugh, and I also realized I shouldn't put so much energy and emotions into something so small. I had my time to be annoyed and upset about it, but thank you all for listening and reading me rant and vent. As for grey rocking, my husband is very private and only his mum knows what's going on in our life, and barely that. She did buy a house recently, so I'm intrigued to see how she decorates it, since she has no self-identity and me and my husband were the first to buy a house. I've blocked her on my Instagram stories and I've removed her from close friends, but I can't really stop posting on social media because that's my job, but I'm going to be more careful about what I share. I think that's everything. Thank you all so much for your words and kindness and advice. I appreciate it. Wow, how unbelievable. They sound so toxic, like beyond toxic, and they're obviously trying to get under your skin as well. Yeah, I feel like ignoring them is the best idea here. Like the top comment says, don't even mention it, just never even notice it. It'll drive her nuts. And as soon as you do that, they'll be like, why aren't they paying attention to me? Like I went out of my way to be awful and toxic, and they don't even care. What they described in this sounded so immature. Like, is this drama from when you're a teenager or something? Come on. You're an adult. Why are you acting like this? But yeah, 100% just seem very disinterested and like you don't even care, because they're definitely trying to get a reaction out of you or trying to make you feel bad. And yeah, don't give it to them. Story number 2 is called Lady at the Checkout Wanted to Go in Front and Didn't Like Being Told No. Short and sweet because this is a little bit lame and probably only slightly less common than airplane seat switch requests. Shopping at BJ's, like Costco but a much funnier name. One evening a couple of weeks ago, the shop took longer than usual, so I was in danger of holding up dinner with the family. At the checkout, there was a little bit of a delay in front, but I was just scrolling Reddit for the extra 10 minutes. There was no one behind me as I started loading my items on the belt. Then a lady 60 plus, approached and said, "Can I go before you as I only have a few items?" 99% sure she didn't say please. Meanwhile, trying to pile her approximately 20 items into the cart's kiddie seat, I guess to make it look like a smaller amount. Context, I had approximately 25 items, but some were larger, so it may have looked more. "No, I'm sorry, I've been waiting for ages. The ice cream is melting and I'm in a rush to get home." "Oh, screw you," she said. "What? There are free tills over there," I said, gesturing to the self-checkout and man till, now empty yards away. "Nobody tells me what to do." "Screw you," she said. "Oh, F off, you old hag," I said. No idea where old hag came from. Not usually in my vocabulary. Gave my wife a chuckle when I told her. Wasn't totally sure about posting here or Am I the A-hole? Well, if you did put it on Am I the A-hole, you definitely would not be the A-hole. They were being so unnecessarily mean. Like, confusingly rude, you know? Like, how are you having this reaction right now? You're upset because I'm not gonna let you go before me, and that's completely reasonable, and you're responding as if it isn't. And I bet they do stuff like this all the time, and they probably get away with it like a lot, and the second that somebody doesn't let them go first, they're like, "What? How dare you? This is an outrage. I will be unnecessarily rude to you for absolutely no reason." Story number 3 is called Karen at the Baggage Claim. This one came from my husband, who doesn't have a Reddit account, but gave me permission to share. As my husband is at the baggage claim, waiting patiently for his suitcases, he sees a woman sit down with a huff and what looks to be her daughter toward the baggage carousel. Mama Karen begins to shout orders to her daughter. "Make sure you get all our luggage, don't forget your sisters, look sharp, you'll miss them," and other things along this line. The poor daughter calls back, "I know what they look like, I have this, Mum." Mum continues to call instructions until suddenly she begins yelling. About 6 identical black bags came out at once. "Daughter, you missed sister's bag." Daughter says no, it's not hers. Mama Karen then jumps off her perch, stomps over to the carousel and grabs a suitcase. "I'll prove this is hers," and proceeds to open the suitcase and pull out a very lacy bra. Mama Karen then begins to yell, "When did sister get this you know what thing?" By this point, sister shows up and begins yelling at her mum, "That's not my bag, what's wrong with you?" Mama Karen then takes the bag, still unzipped, and chucks it back on the conveyor belt, and then huffs back to her seat. Husband's bag arrives and he leaves, feeling very sorry for those two girls. Yeah, imagine living with somebody like this. That's so infuriating. The fact that they have the audacity to open somebody else's luggage, take stuff out of it, and then not even do it back up. And not to mention the rest of this, and also to be acting like this in public. Yeah, so bad. Story number 4 is called Entitled Extended Family Expected Me to Make Entire Holiday Meal. For holidays, my family usually takes turns hosting and it's potluck. We call each other, decide on a menu, where and what time, and decide who brings what. Everyone contributes. Over the years, we bought a house. One sister, call her Alice, not her real name, got divorced. Another family couldn't host because too small. So the last couple of years, it's been falling on us and my other sister, call her Carol, to host it over and over because your houses are better for large gathering. Okay, for now. But a couple of years ago, it got too much. We all decided on day and time, etc. as usual. However, Carol got called about a week early saying that she can't bring any food because I have an important appointment and won't have any time to cook. So I said, okay, Carol usually cooks a lot of stuff, so I didn't mind this one time she honestly couldn't. I'll take over what you can't make this year, except the vegetarian entree. She made a lentil dish every year, so the time for the meal arrives and nobody's there. My sister, who can't cook because of an appointment, showed up 30 minutes late and said that her appointment had actually been cancelled and she still didn't bring one thing to contribute. She then said she arrived late because she had talked to Alice, who said that she was arriving even later. I called Alice and she said that her daughter had just started cooking the potatoes and she lives an hour away and infamously always late in the family. So Alice with niece arrived 3 hours late with the mashed potatoes and Alice made the salad in my kitchen when she arrived. One nephew arrived 2 hours late with a bag of salad greens from the store. Another one arrived 3.5 hours late and then started cooking vegan burger patties on the stove for only himself. One brother that lives with us didn't contribute either. I ended up cooking 100% of the meal that I ate, so we ate with who and what was there at 30 minutes late when we realised that everyone else wasn't coming for hours. The food that was brought later was only eaten by the few that were there because of the 11 people coming had eaten already. No apologies for being late and disrespectful. No apologies for not bringing something to contribute after the appointment cancelled. Nothing. All the work of house cleaning and preparation and buying food for 12 to 15 people, even if it's just my menu items, dinner prep and cooking and after dinner cleanup, too much. I felt entirely taken advantage of and I sent a message the day after that I am never hosting again and the rest of them need to make alternative alternative arrangements for future holidays. The next holiday, they called to make plans and they were shocked that I said no to participating in the dinner. Said we were just going to have our own dinner with only my immediate family. So much less stress. While arguing about it with Alice, I explained exactly what happened and why I've stopped. And she said something like, okay, I see your point of view and we really didn't think anything of it. You always do it. Yeah, that's the problem. Since then, the rest of the family have just had holiday dinners in ones and twos by themselves. I still get inquiries if we're going to be hosting, and then I turn around and ask them if they're going to be hosting. Always a no. Yeah, that's so frustrating. And yet the fact that they don't think about it and you always do it, that's half the problem there because they're ungrateful. Like, oh yeah, they're going to do it. It'll be okay. It doesn't even matter if we're 3 hours late, and then to not apologize for being late. Yeah, that's so rude. And it's so fair enough that you don't want to do this ever again. Story number 5 is called The Entitled Gardener. I went to a party for one of my wife's workmates during the mid-90s. I was at the bar getting a beer when I met the husband of the woman having the party. I'll call him G for short. And during the usual first meet chit-chat, I asked him what he did. Big mistake. G, I'm a gardener, but don't ask me to do your garden, okay? Me, okay, trying to figure out if he was serious or making a joke. G, yeah, I mean it. I'm not coming to your house to do your garden. I'm not coming to your house to help you with new plants. I'm not coming to your house to give you gardening advice. I'm not coming to do your landscaping. I'm not coming to your mate's house or your dad's house. I'm not going to anyone else's house to do their gardens. As soon as I say I'm a gardener, mate, all I get is, can you do my garden? Can you mow my lawns? Can you plant some trees for me? Can you look after my mum's garden? Can you do this? Can you do that? That's all I hear. So before you even ask, I'm just going to stop you there, okay? I'm paraphrasing as I can't remember exactly what he said, but he went on and on about it. Okay, thinking it was a good time to move on and meet someone else. G, what do you do? Me, I'm an electrician. G, can you wire up my shed? I need lights and some PowerPoints. I was trying to figure out again if he was joking or serious, because if he was joking, it was a pretty good one. But no, he was serious? No way. I told him I'm a bit busy and then I moved away. I managed to avoid him for the rest of the night. How were they being serious after everything they said? If I was in that situation, I would have burst out laughing. That's hilarious and so unhinged. The next one is called Entitled Barista. So I get coffee in the mornings every day from one of my favorite places near my work. Been doing it for years. I know most of the people there, but obviously they have a high turnover given the current economy and situation. One day I'll walk in to get my coffee, which is only a 5-minute ordeal. I have a very demanding job, so I have to be at work at 7 a.m. sharp if I even want to get started with the day. So there's a new barista there this morning who's happily chatting up a storm with what appears to be one of her friends who is also getting coffee in front of me. I politely and quietly stay in line for about 15 minutes until she briefly acknowledges me. I don't want to be that guy that yells at people to get going or anything. A little more time passes by and I decide, screw this, I'm gonna leave. And I'll walk out back to my car and I head to work. I can always get coffee later. Before you say I'm a pushover, I can tell you my work requires a lot of confrontation and I try to save my energy for situations that I feel are actually worth the energy. Going Karen mode on this girl would probably not be productive, so I left. The very next day I walk back in and it's the same barista, but with a very annoyed look when she sees me. I order my coffee and I wait for it on one of the tables. When she calls me back to get my coffee, she all of a sudden goes ballistic on me and tells me, you know you got me in a lot of trouble yesterday, don't you? Flabbergasted by her reaction, I could only answer, what do you mean? She states, well, yesterday when you walked out without even waiting a couple of minutes for me to get to you, my manager saw you and told me that I couldn't do that, especially to long-term clients. You almost got me fired, you know? That is absolute BS. How can people be so entitled these days? So instead of taking accountability for their own mistake, they blame you for this, the customer who bloody didn't do anything. That's so bad. Imagine not taking responsibility for something that you did and getting angry at a customer that you don't even know. So immature and so unprofessional. Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to respond to something like this. A customer walked into the coffee shop ready to order a coffee and you stand there talking to your friend for 15 minutes without even acknowledging the customer, and now you're acting like the other person did something wrong. I can't get over how frustrating that is, and good on the manager for saying something, but obviously it didn't work because they don't think they can do anything wrong. Oh, how annoying. If that happened to me, I would have been in complete disbelief. Like, how do you feel like you're right in this situation? So entitled. And yeah, I feel like it's about time we read something wholesome. That's enough entitlement for today. I hope you had a wonderful time, guys. When someone let you cross the road, yeah, thank you for not continuing to drive. I really appreciate it. You're far too kind. I love little moments like that. It feels like you're making a friend. Some rare mice can have golden fur. Some even rarer mice can have wavy golden fur. This is a shiny Pokemon. Yeah, what? That's so cool. And that's a real thing. That's so cute. It has the most luscious looking golden hair. I feel like this mouse is in a shampoo commercial or something. That's adorable. Yeah, look what my dad just said about my mum. Your mother is such a powerful soul that even the daffodils lean towards her instead of the sun. Oh, that's so beautiful. Seeing people in love like this is so sweet. And yeah, on that very beautiful note, I'm going to leave today's episode there. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if you did and you want to see more Entitled People, make sure you like and subscribe. And the comment of the day today goes to Sylvia. I love Am I the A-hole? You never know what turn the story takes. It's a bit like opening presents from family members. They can be really good or really horrifying. Yeah, that's so true. And sometimes they seem like they're going to be horrifying, but they're actually awesome. The Am I the A-hole stories, I mean. Yeah, I love that subreddit too. Every time we go on there, it's such an adventure. And yeah, I'm happy that you guys enjoy the episodes too. Okay, I'm out of here. Make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every single day. Bye!